extremely much about identity and status, always trying to act like he's high class and showing off as an extremely superior man. Places like the noisy commoner-filled cafeteria are spots he would absolutely never be willing to casually step foot into. However, even if he doesn't actively come find me, later on I'll still use other methods to deal with him anyway, as there's no shortage of 1 or 2 chances. It's just a pity for him that he can't flex like he used to back in the day. It's just that I slightly underestimated the impact level of yesterday's incident when I saw him accompanied by a female teacher stepping into the cramped and crowded cafeteria. I was a bit startled for a moment, but right afterwards I guessed that he cared way too much about that matter. So he would rather lower his pride and take steps all the way here just to find me and clear everything up. I gently bit the tip of the chopsticks in my hand, smiling with crinkled eyes. As I called out, Lutubai, turn back around and see who's here. He was busy burying his head in eating with big mouthfuls, completely lacking any state of mind left to listen to me speak. Eating and talking with full mouths basically, having no mind left whatsoever to listen to what I was saying, until Chujimo walked right up to him, that he finally raised his eyes to glance at the opponent. At first, he hadn't reacted in time, then stared closely with another careful look, before recognizing him, widening his eyes to stare fixedly. Young time no see. Chujimo flashed a smile. It was extremely gentle and refined. His face was neatly and cleanly groomed, wearing a high-end suit from this season's latest collection, and on his wrist, he wore an extremely expensive watch, whose value could be said to be not small at all. Just a quick glance was enough to give off the vibe of a successful businessman, or a young master with a well-off family background. Isn't this young Master Chu, with your noble status coming to a place like this, isn't it too much of a grievance for you? Lutubai immediately put down the chopsticks in his hand, not even eating his favorite rice dish anymore, and his whole body instantly switched to defense mode. In the past, if compared to the main target, which was me, Chujimo actually targeted him even more. Just like right now, he put on a look full of disdain. And when he spoke, he didn't spare any courtesy or show any mercy at all. Although they didn't directly get physical with their hands, the verbal sparring was also extremely fierce every time, making people feel extremely uncomfortable. No wonder he couldn't let it go. Chujimo's expression was somewhat dark and unsightly, because he was in too much of a rush to find me. To resolve yesterday's matter, he actually completely forgot about Lutubai's existence in a situation where Lin Wanwan wasn't present here. This guy, who spoke as straight as an arrow, was truly his biggest headache. The female teacher accompanying him heard these words just now, and her expression looking at him also started to turn a bit strange. This student, when you speak, you should pay attention to boundaries. Speaking like that is disrespectful to others, so be careful not to bring upon yourself unnecessary trouble. Chujimo's gaze was extremely serious, and his aura appeared extremely powerful, truly looking like he had the demeanor of a teacher. Unnecessary trouble, huh? Lutubai let out a cold snort. As expected of someone who used to study abroad, your speech is certainly punchier and bolder than back in the day. Not only is your speech punchier, but you also suffer from selective amnesia, don't you? Wouldn't that make my wife turn into an outsider? All those deep feelings and all those years were truly wasted for nothing. I hurriedly chimed in to echo the seriousness right beside him. The amount of information in these words was honestly a bit too massive. Teacher Tran, who accompanied him, flashed a smile, full of confusion and embarrassment. Teacher Chu, are you and these two students old acquaintances with each other? Well, we do know each other. Of course he couldn't let Teacher Tran dig too deep into what we said. He frowned and intentionally explained. But there was a slight misunderstanding between us, so what these guys said sounds a bit harsh. His expression showed extreme composure. His words intentionally left room for himself to retreat, posing the stability of a mature man that easily made others develop a sense of trust. Is that so? A smile bloomed on Teacher Tran's face, again her tone carrying a few portions of shielding and taking sides. I told you Teacher Ju wasn't that kind of person. A proper appearance, polite manners. Chujimo's physical and external conditions were truly very good, plus he went out of his way to maintain his charisma. Just casually taking a stroll around school, not to mention attracting 100% attention, at least could leave quite a few single female teachers with extremely good impressions. Teacher Tran naturally was also among those people. Haha, Lutubai let out a gentle chuckle, though the smile didn't reach his eyes at all. Chujimo, when you hear these words, don't you feel a guilty conscience? Someone with good psychological quality naturally wouldn't show it. The two of us bantered and coordinated with each other, extremely in sync, and the words spoken also pierced straight into the other person's sore spot. Chuzimo's expression went from pale depths of Chuzimo's eyes. Hearing these words, don't you feel a guilty conscience? Someone with good psychological resilience, of course, wouldn't show it. The two of us riffed and coordinated with each other extremely well, our words piercing straight into the other person's sore spot. Chuzimo's complexion turned completely pale, turned green again. Truly, two fists cannot fight four hands no matter how smoothly he could talk. He took a deep, deep breath, turned his head to look toward Teacher Tran. His tone carrying a bit of apologetic sentiment. Teacher Tran, thank you so much for bringing me here today. It's getting late now, so hurry and go eat your lunch. Leave the matters here for me. Handle by myself. Actually, I don't mind at all. He finished speaking and stepped up to the empty space next to, striking a pose ready to sit down and talk things out for a long time. Teacher Tran hurriedly raised her hand to pull him back, her face full of anxious worry as she spoke. Teacher Chu, what are you still planning to sit here for? Intending to use Teacher Tran's family as a shield, huh? That petty little scheme, I could see right through it completely. He is naturally the kind of person who is used to relying on others. We are students of clinical medicine, aren't you? Not a teacher of clinical medicine. And you don't manage our major at all. Utubai has always had his own opinions since childhood, never liking to be bossed around by others. She wouldn't blindly obey and not dare to open her mouth to argue back just because of the other person's teacher status. Teacher Tran belongs to the nursing major, so she genuinely isn't directly in charge of clinical medicine. A trace of confusion and awkwardness flashed across Teacher Tran's face, but right in front of Chujimo. Like this, she didn't want to show herself in a weak position and had to brace herself and stubbornly defend. Even though I don't teach your major, you guys are students in the school, and I am a teacher of the school, so I also have the responsibility to speak up and remind you guys. I don't want to argue about this with you. You just do your job, and we'll keep our attitude as it is, okay? He picked up the pair of chopsticks on the table with an extremely indifferent expression, not bothering with other specialty teachers and sticking his nose into this busybody matter, which was truly rare to see. If not, you can tell us to shut our mouths so that the teacher next to you won't feel annoyed. Lu Tubai spoke bluntly. The depths of his heart made him feel extremely awkward and humiliated. Chujimo glanced at him, the space between his brows tightening slightly. If he kept encountering this kind of situation, he would only fall into a completely passive position and fail to seize the initiative at all. Only Lin Wanwan would bring him enough confidence to earn respect. Therefore, he absolutely had to handle these relationships properly. I would definitely not easily bow my head and compromise. Teacher Tran found it hard to pick any more faults with us, afraid we would spew out words that left her even more cornered and put her in a tougher spot. So she gently turned to advise Chujimo. Teacher Chu, the kids are young and rash. You shouldn't bother bickering and fussing over it and tire yourself out. Especially as a new teacher like you, it's truly unnecessary to argue back and forth with students. Is he even a teacher? To begin with, my smile grew even more unfathomable. Is it based on connections, or did you get in through the back door, huh? I'm warning you now, please watch your language. Chuzimo, at this moment, truly put on a serious look, his tone becoming extremely solemn. Just like Teacher Tran said, I am still a teacher of the school after all. Please show me the bare minimum of respect. I indifferently shrugged, my shoulders showing no care at all, while the smile on my lips remained extremely relaxed and unhurried. I was just curiously asking around a bit. Didn't state it as a fact for sure. You don't need to be this tense at all. Could he not feel guilty and panicked? If he kept acting as if he didn't care at all, then how could he make others believe he had real talent? Utubai propped his chin with both hands, staring fixedly at him. Was thanks to going through the back door, huh? I am warning you now, please. Watch your language. Chuzimo. At this moment, he genuinely put on a serious expression, his tone turning extremely solemn. Just as Ms. Tran said, regardless of how it is, I am still a school teacher, so please, grant me the bare minimum of respect. I indifferently shrugged, acting like I didn't care. The smile on my lips remaining completely leisurely and calm. I was just curiously asking around a bit. Didn't make any absolute claims about you, so you don't need to be completely stressed out like this. Could he not feel a guilty conscience and throw a fit? If he just acted like he didn't care, how could he make others believe he actually had genuine talent? Utubai supported her chin with both hands, staring fixedly at him. Right, Teacher Tran, you tell me if that's right or not. You students are truly beyond incorrigible, and your attitude and behavior toward teachers are simply way too disrespectful. I really don't understand how, with such terrible attitudes, you guys even manage to pass the exams into medical university. You're genuinely making the school disappointed. Lu Tubai turned to look at me. Meow. I muttered a fake meow sound, chirping mockingly. I instantly understood his hidden meaning. The two of us put our heads together and chuckled softly. Isn't this just an outrageously blatant bad act of shielding and taking sides? Chujimo truly has a talent for drawing aggro, going everywhere only to repel other people's goodwill, while also being the type of blind, effortless white knight. But thinking about it, it didn't seem that strange either. After all, his appearance wasn't too bad. If it were just myself alone handling him, it would still be manageable, but on top of that, added Utubai's unhinged straight-shooter mouth. No matter how hard he tried to explain now, it would only sound lame. originally intending to clear up the misunderstandings between us, so everyone could keep the peace later on, since you guys don't want to talk nicely. I'm at a loss for words too. Whatever needed to be expressed, I've expressed it all. Hopefully from now on, you guys will be less childish and rash. Jujimo stood up abruptly and said coldly, Teacher Chu, you've really troubled yourself. Seeing Teacher Tran's expression, full of warm care and concern, genuinely felt she was sticking her nose into things. So, he straight up opened his mouth to expose her. Teacher Tran, this polished and bright-looking teacher in front of you, actually has a background that is far from ordinary. All those expensive luxury items on this teacher even far exceed the imagination of ordinary people. That watch on his wrist is even more of a rare item. Let me tell you the brand name. You can go search online yourself, and you'll understand right away. So do you still think we are picking fights for no reason? We were only recounting the truth. I smiled, calmly chiming in to back him up. Teacher Tran's expression instantly changed a few shades. He had stripped away the truth to such a crystal clear degree. If she still blindly sided with him in her heart, it wouldn't be out of innocence, but rather being completely blinded by his outer shell, truly needing to wake up and snap back to reality. Teacher Tran had, after all, only just met him, only having a somewhat favorable initial impression, without having deeply investigated the ins and outs at all. Therefore, she glanced at Juzimo, without saying a word, and directly turned around to leave. Juzimo's expression became extremely awkward. He stood in place in silence for a moment. Teacher Chu, I know you wanted to find me to talk about yesterday's matter, wanting to use this opportunity to whitewash yourself, but please have some mercy and look at the situation. Before coming, you should have also checked who is here anyway. He specialized in handling every kind of stubborn blockhead, so I beamed brightly like a flower and spoke mockingly. Of course, right now, I won't easily concede either. It's just that he himself still hasn't fully accepted this truth. I basically had no need to run away or dodge. You said he specializes in handling every kind of stubborn blockhead. You're exaggerating just a little bit there. Juzimo suppressed a fire of anger in his heart and spoke, I don't need to try hard to prove anything either. Working at this university, in the future, it's inevitable to occasionally bump into each other on campus. I'll just say a greeting if I feel it's necessary. By the way, what subject do you actually teach? I'm honestly a bit curious now, I boldly asked him. You went abroad to study as your major medical science, or what? Lutubai showed an expression full of questioning, using his gaze to stare fixedly, waiting for him to give an answer. Juzimo's expression tightened slightly, but right after that he quickly adjusted. Anger in her heart, she spoke up. I don't need to try to prove anything either. Later on, working at this university, it's inevitable that we'll occasionally bump into each other around campus. I just feel that whenever necessary, I'll say hello at school. I only greet people when necessary. For a second. What on earth are you even teaching for a subject? I'm genuinely a bit curious now. Let me boldly ask you, when you went abroad to study, was your major medical science, or what? Lutu, showing a questioning expression. She used her gaze to stare, fixedly waiting for him give an answer. Juzimo's complexion tightened slightly for a moment. Right after that, quickly adjusted, with an extremely calm expression. Hold pharmacist certificates, fully qualified to be a pharmacy major teacher. He didn't answer Lu Tubai's question straight at all. Lu Tubai genuinely admired the audacity of this guy. Clearly in the wrong, yet Juzimo still managed to calmly talk his way out of it like that. Don't you think these sophistries right now look no different from a clown? I lowered my gaze to look at my wristwatch. If I were you, I would have already bounced to save some face for myself instead of waiting around for lunch to end. We're leaving first. As soon as those words dropped, stood up, signaling with my eyes to Lu Tubai to take steps and leave together with me. The two of us walked side by side, striding proudly and leaving right in front of Jujimo's face. Juzimo stood petrified in place, his gaze full of bitter hatred, locked tightly onto our backs, so angry he was grinding his teeth. In the past, I was always timid and scared whenever faced with him, absolute never daring to tease, even a little bit. Over the past 5 years, many twists and turns could happen, and a person can completely change. I transformed into this appearance. He still couldn't swallow this grievance. A young master who in the past only knew how to cower and watch his facial expressions now dared to blatantly slap him in the face, especially when facing my mocking gaze. He basically couldn't keep his composure at all. I didn't want me to realize that I could completely hold my head high and live a proud, free, and unrestrained life, looking exactly like Lu Tubai. Jujimo tightly shut his eyes and right after that, quickly strode away from the cafeteria. Lu Tubai and I vented a wave of frustration, our moods becoming extremely refreshed. The afternoon classes ended, and I once again turned down Lu Tubai's invitation, heading straight to Lin Wanwan's hospital. Lin Wanwan used to be a workaholic, busy every day, and rarely lying in bed, but now she had to lie in one spot bedridden all day long. The level of discomfort can naturally be imagined. My mood was extremely joyful, with a bright smile on my face as I walked into the hospital room, completely contrasting with Lin Wanwan's icy face, to create a starkly opposed picture, putting on such an ugly expression for who to see. Don't put it on for me to see, that's all. Otherwise I'll turn around and walk straight back. Inside my stomach, I secretly thought like that. Lin Wanwan, who originally wanted to throw an unpleasant expression at me, took a deep breath and forced herself to use a gentle tone. To ask you're done with classes. Already my expression unchanged. I slightly nodded. Isn't this a redundant question? If class isn't over, but I come here? Seems like the brain injury is real. Lin Wanwan was silent for a few seconds, feeling that lying on the hospital bed had made her stupid. She was a bit angry and wanted to throw a tantrum, but couldn't vent me. Otherwise, if I got mad and left, she would have to face the annoying nurse, so she could only force back her anger. What are we eating for dinner tonight? Asking this, I suddenly remembered something and continued speaking. I forgot you can only sip congee now. Lin Wanwan's expression grew a few shades uglier for several consecutive days drinking only soup and water as a human being could possibly stand it. Lin Wanwan felt her mouth was bland. Is your mom bringing food over? My stack of books aside, sat down on the chair next, her leisurely crossing my legs. Wait for your mom to bring it once you finish eating. Then I'll go home. The so-called taking care of me from your mouth means watching me eat and then leaving. Huh? Lin Wanwan coldly questioned. Well, what else? Remembering your bad attitude. What else do you want me to take care of? Taking care of you. Being nearsighted. You're so boring, aren't you? Lin Wanwan laughed. Out of anger, Mu Chen. Just you wait. I raised my head to look at the ceiling. Anyway, once she could move, she'd definitely settle scores. Right now, with too many debts. She wasn't scared of bites. Taking advantage. The fact that she couldn't budge, irritating her a bit more, was just right. I raised my head to look at the sky anyway. Once she could move, she would definitely settle scores right now. Knowing so much, she wasn't scared of biting, so taking advantage of the fact that she couldn't budge, irritating her a bit more was the way to go. Not off easy as for her, considering it a win. Mu Chen, you think you can piss me off? Why did this woman's question match my inner thoughts so closely? My heart instantly skipped a beat, a gaze full of defense as I looked at her. No way does she know what I'm thinking. This is absolutely impossible. It must just be a coincidence, after all. But this woman is truly terrifying. A person with no schemes in front of her seems to hide nothing at all. I felt it couldn't be crossing my arms across my chest and quietly watching the woman in front of me. My cultivation level isn't enough yet. You got into a car accident too early. Give it another 2 years, and maybe it'll be enough. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. I never noticed you had such a sharp tongue before. I hadn't been enlightened before, and was no different from a fool. Now that I'm enlightened, I look a lot smarter. I let out a cold laugh. This mouth of mine was handed down through direct lineage by Su Huilin. Wanting to get the upper hand over me with words is really tough. Whether it was Chuzimo or Lin Wanwan, neither of them was match for me. After that, both of them didn't say anything more, and the hospital room plunged into a dead silence until when Tujin arrived to break the silence. Daughter, Mom knows you have no appetite for plain congee, so today, Mom added some chicken meat into the congee. Eat a bit more, okay? Unlike usual days where she'd pick a fight the moment she saw me. Today when Tujin acted as if she didn't see me until she scooped the congee into a bowl and brought it over, only then coldly glancing at me. Some people talk big, promising to do this and that, but when it comes to actually doing it, they can't get anything done at all. Letting out a few sarcastic laughs, I laughed along, as well, only looking a bit foolish. Who was she throwing shade at with that passive-aggressive tone? As long as I pretended not to understand, the person she was talking about wasn't me. I simply refused to reply, and let's see if her heart felt uncomfortable. Lin Wanwan, on the hospital bed, sneered. She looked at me, a hint of a smile lurking in her eyes. Seeing that I just smiled foolishly, said nothing. When Tujin angrily complained. What bad luck. Right, her daughter got into a traffic accident. Could you please not bring up 2 words, accident, when Tujin angrily shouted in a loud voice. Her precious daughter had to suffer, and it broke her heart to death. So hearing those 2 words, even a little bit grated on her ears. Fine. I made a gesture of zipping my mouth shut, looking even more infuriating than before, when Tujin took a few deep breaths, forcefully suppressing fire of anger. In her heart, grabbed my hand and shoved the bowl into my arms. Help me take care of my daughter properly. This is something you said yourself, right? You'll keep taking care of the kid until she's discharged from the hospital, and tonight you aren't allowed to go home. Either I lowered my eyes to look at the bowl in my hands, a cunning flash in my eyes, but I have to go to school when Tujin's expression changed. Didn't you already drop out of school? Didn't you force me to get a divorce? Once divorced, if I don't go back to school, what else do I know how to do? Fortunately, my grades were too stellar. My advisor didn't want to lose a talent like me, so he hadn't submitted withdrawal application upstairs yet, which allowed me to continue turning to school to study. Otherwise, my whole life would have been ruined by someone. Lin Wanwan, utterly, both as others sticking their nose into things. Loathing elders, interfering in romantic relationships and marriage. I said this deliberately to throw dirt in Wen Tujin's face, acting aggressive and bragging about myself for a bit while simultaneously launching a passive-aggressive counterattack. Is that so? Lin Wanwan's expression instantly sank, her gaze toward Wen Tujin, turning extremely gloomy. Wen Tujin felt guilty and avoided her gaze, then stiffened her neck to retort, I didn't tell the two of you to get a divorce. It was he who proactively brought it up first. As soon as those words left her mouth, she glared at me, with a face full of anger. You brat. Why are you running your mouth like that, huh? I indifferently shrugged my shoulders, my tone calm as I smiled and said, Guess I remembered wrong. Then, as if I'd actually remember wrong, I clearly said it on purpose. No matter how the situation, this could also be considered giving face to, right? As if I'd remember it wrong, clearly said it on purpose. No matter what the situation was, this could also be considered giving face to Wen Tujin a stepping stone to climb up. Although Wen Tujin was unhappy in her heart, her expression had softened quite a bit. I'd you stay to take care of Wanwan. The kid, now, cannot move, and leaving her to be cared for by others doesn't give me peace of mind. Wen Tujin pointed at the bowl in my hands. I still have some business to attend to. You feed the kanji to Wanwan, sounds so nice. Wasn't it even crying out that leaving care to others doesn't give peace of mind? If it doesn't give peace of mind, why not take care of her yourself? To put it bluntly, she wanted to torture me and deliberately not let me live in peace. Leaving her in my care is what gives the least peace of mind. Indeed, who knows if one day when my mood is bad, I'll bring up old debts to settle with her daughter. This time, Lin Wanwan couldn't laugh anymore after hearing that. Right now, she was genuinely in danger. This matter wasn't something to joke about, expression unchanged. I held the spoon and turned my head to look at Lin Wanwan. Mom. Don't worry, I will take good care of her. The two words, good care, were emphasized heavily by me, Lin Wanwan's eyes sinking slightly, her expression full of warning. I quickly looked away, pretending as if I didn't see anything at all. Wen Tujin saw that I didn't oppose anymore, so she didn't say anything. Extra turned around and grabbed her bag to leave right away. As she walked, she instructed toward the door, telling Jihuiki that if she went away, she should let me know. Today, not wanting to stay wasn't an option anymore. If I bailed right now, that would be trampling on Wen Tujin's face, and at that time, it wouldn't be strange if she went crazy at her. Wen Tujin walked out of sight. I picked up the bowl of kanji for Lin Wanwan. During that time, neither of them spoke a single word. The hospital room was extremely quiet. Noticed her constantly rolling her eyes downward, suddenly lifting her head to look behind me. I turned my head back with full suspicion. The woman standing behind had a tall figure at an extremely close distance to me, feeling like standing right in front of a wall, suddenly giving me a start. I frowned and looked up, bumping into a nonchalant face. I was very familiar with this woman. She was Lin Wanwan's cousin, the daughter of Wen Tujin's younger brother. Her name was Mu Yulu. Previously, Mu Yulu, just like Lin Wanwan, was extremely disgusted by me for no reason other than feeling that I was unworthy of the cousin she idolized. Every time we met, she couldn't avoid dropping sarcastic remarks. If it were just sarcasm and mockery, it would still be fine. I could completely choose to turn a blind eye, and it wouldn't cause any real, actual damage to me. But Mu Yulu had a crooked mind, frequently tripping me up behind my back, so I utterly loathed her. How did I forget about this person? Anyway, in the past I suffered quite a bit in her hands. When I had time, I definitely had to teach her a lesson. Lin Wanwan heard my inner thoughts. Her gaze looking at Mu Yulu with a hint of displeasure. This cousin of hers had been annoying since childhood, narrow-minded, and holding grudges to boot. Always looking at anyone she found displeasing. Even if that person didn't offend her at all, she would still cook up dirty tricks, mess with people. Truly someone with a gloomy interior. If Mu Chen had gone through those things, she definitely must have been bullied quite a bit by Mu Yulu. You better restrain yourself a bit. Lin Wanwan spoke with a cold warning, meeting Mu Yulu. The very first thing she said was like that falling into my ears. It felt rather strange, but Mu Yulu understood her meaning. looking startled as she frowned, finding it a bit unbelievable. Cousin, doesn't she hate him a lot? Why is she suddenly taking his side? I didn't want to mess with her directly, nor did I want to get entangled with Muyulu, so I placed the bowl on the bedside table, stood up, and stepped aside. Lin Wanwan showed an unhappy expression, speaking in a cold tone. I haven't finished my evening kanji yet. Eating less is good for your health. I chuckled faintly. Lin Wanwan hadn't even had the chance to speak yet when Muyulu on the side already chuckled out loud. See, it's because you're scared of me and dare not continue sitting here anymore, right? What you said is both right and wrong. Haven't you noticed? Whenever I run into you at school, I take a detour. It's not that I'm scared of your oversized temper. It's just that I always took detours. I was just afraid your temper was too big. Your body is fragile. What if your wave of anger rushes over me? Then my poor little life would be in deep trouble. I spoke while gently bowing down toward her, an attitude that looked very flattery. Words coming out of my mouth somehow sounded a bit off. Muyulu's face darkened by half. Normally, when he bullied me, I wouldn't even dare to talk back a single word, but now encountering this counterattack for the first time made her feel extremely furious. Chen, don't you think that marrying my cousin lets you leap up in a single bound, look down on everyone? In my cousin's eyes, you are nothing at all. You are fundamentally nothing at all, Yulu's speech has always been harsh since ancient times. These harsh words I've heard way too many times, so I had thoroughly built up immunity long ago. My expression didn't change at all, still maintaining a polite, smiling posture. You're overthinking it. I always have a very clear self-awareness. Completely no need to waste effort, reminding me on purpose. These words of mine listened to sounded very pleasant to the ear, but made the listener extremely uncomfortable inside, wanting to get angry. Yet getting angry would just show that she was too petty. Muyulu was completely nauseated. The best method to deal with this kind of person is to use the exact same way to strike back. Unfortunately, Muyulu didn't understand this logic. I think you're living too comfortably. Muyulu strode forward toward me, her expression extremely fierce. Today, if I don't teach you a proper lesson, I'll write my name backward. My expression was extremely calm, without feeling any trace of panic at all, even standing still in place without moving an inch. Such a foolish child. If she stirs up trouble openly, one getting reported won't just be her family. Even the Lin family will be dragged into the vortex, thereby leading to company stock prices plunging. At that time, the losses would be immeasurable. Make your move. Already stop dawdling. Lin Wanwan's expression instantly sank, shouting in a stern tone, Yulu, you think I don't exist anymore, right? Muyulu's steps instantly halted, turning her head back to complain coldly with a grievance-filled look. The things he said were so harsh. Who on earth is speaking harshly? Lin Wanwan felt both amused and gives a headache, using a stern gaze to look at Muyulu. Even so, you are not allowed to strike people. I'm not planning to strike him. Muyulu, even if my temper is bad, I still can't just casually hit people. Oh, so she actually has some principles, after all. I clicked my tongue in extreme regret, full of provocation, as I continued to question. You're not planning to hit me then? Why did you storm over here for? Could it be you wanted to give me a massage, Mo? Chen Muyulu's eyes were bloodshot, practically on the verge of being pissed to death. Never before had anyone provoked her to this extent. Although everything has a first time, she didn't hope that person would be Mu Shen, relying on what in the past he had to bow his head before her. But now, not only did he hold his head high, he even dealt her a heavy blow. Yulu thought about it and felt more and more uncomfortable. I am right. Here, don't call my name so loudly. I raised my hand to flick my ear, making it even more infuriating for others. Mu Chen, I don't know what kind of trauma you suffered, but I am not my cousin. You better watch yourself. Muyulu gritted her teeth in warning. Are you threatening me? Guess I remembered wrong. Don't do. But I'm actually really scared of annoying people like you. This word I shouldn't have said, right? I'm truly very sorry. Just now I slipped up. An adult is broad-minded and magnanimous. Please, by all means, don't take it to heart. Are you about to be pissed to death? If you're so capable, come over and hit me then. She's lived this long without ever meeting anyone like this, actually rushing over asking to get beaten up. Mu Chen either has something wrong with his brain or a psychological issue now. How could a normal person come up with this? Muyulu, truly. You were practically about to be pissed to death. Your fists clenched tightly a few times before letting go, and your face clearly wrote the phrase, I really want to beat him up a bit. But no matter what, she also knew she shouldn't casually throw hands and feet, moreover, right in front of Lin Wanwan. Therefore, this ball of anger suppressed in her chest, this flame of anger suppressed in her stomach, basically had no way to be vented out. You could imagine how uncomfortable that level of annoyance was. I saw her only fiercely glaring at me, fortunately having no intention to make a move. So I also knew that no matter how much I provoked her, I would immediately lose all interest in watching and walked toward the water dispenser to get some water. It seemed I'd have to think of another way later, definitely give her a lesson she'd remember for a lifetime, so she wouldn't dare come tease me again. Better yet, upon seeing me, she should detour around me. Lin Wanwan heard in her voice, her expression turning even more gloomy. Moyulu, from now on don't get entangled with him anymore. Moyulu widened her eyes, in shock, looking at her older cousin. You're actually taking his side. I don't care. He humiliated me like this today. I definitely have to give him a taste of hardship. Sister is just afraid you'll have to suffer hardship. Lin Wanwan almost couldn't bear to listen, letting out a sigh without saying anything more. Perhaps that was true. This cousin of hers really should receive a bit of a lesson. Now, pain in her body occasionally left her, without the strength to think about these troublesome matters. Closing her eyes, she softly spoke. You go back, I want to rest. I'll go right now, but before leaving, I have to ask a few things. Moyulu withdrew, the anger on her face, smiling brightly as she sat down on a chair. Lin Wanwan half opened one eye, looked at her, and asked, What is it? Has Chuzimo already come back? Standing next to the water dispenser, drinking water. My movements instantly paused for a beat. I turned my gaze straight toward that direction, my ears also perking up. If you have nothing to do, hurry up and go back. Lin Wanwan's expression was extremely unpleasant. Rather than believing her cousin had changed her mind and fallen in love with Mu Shenmu, Yulu preferred to believe that she was just throwing a tantrum. So she lowered her head and earnestly persuaded. Sis Chuzimo's personality is arrogant, plus back then, Grandpa forced you to marry him, so he has resentment in his heart. Making a fuss and acting up toward you is totally normal, now that he has finally agreed to return to the country. You can't throw a tantrum along with him. What if he goes abroad again for several years without coming back? By that time, you'll regret it, and it won't be time. That's right, if he goes abroad for another 5 years, my and your sister's child could already call him uncle. This line of mine was truly too awesome, successfully making the expressions of both people turn dark and extremely unsightly. In this world, how could there be someone with such a foul and poisonous mouth that Mushin hasn't been beaten to death is truly a miracle. Why are you all looking at me like that? I blinked, my innocent eyes. Could it be? I didn't say it right. You still want to have kids with your sister's husband. Seriously, growing up looking like nothing yet so fond of delusional galomania. My face was filled with sarcasm. This isn't me being delusional. Your sister and I are a legally wedded couple. Try thinking about it carefully. Day in and day out, why do you always love to delude yourself into thinking you're all-powerful? My face was filled with mockery. This isn't me being delusional. Your sister and I are legally wedded spouses if you try to think carefully about it day by day, living together in one dark room, and later, sleeping in the same bed. Sooner or later, we'll end up having kids anyway, unless your sister's health has issues. As soon as those words fell, I turned my head to look at Lin Wanwan, a smile blooming on my lips, full of hidden meaning. Lin Wanwan felt as if she had been heavily insulted, her cheeks flushing with a layer of red clouds. This completely wasn't because of shyness, but rather because she was being driven completely crazy by me. Did you forget about a possibility? Lin Wanwan's pretty face was covered in frost. I raised an eyebrow. What possibility? Isn't it that you don't want to sleep with me? That little bit of thought of hers I was more than capable of guessing. How on earth can I make this mind-reading psychic ability disappear? Then, you don't need it to disappear on its own. Just being hospitalized right now has already shaved 10 years off my life. All of you get out. Lin Wanwan tiredly closed both eyes tightly. I want to rest. Cousin Chuzimo, didn't you hear what I said? Lin Wanwan suddenly snapped her eyes wide open, her gaze so icy that it was extremely terrifying. My love life. It's not your turn to worry about. You should take care of yourself. First, those who understand Lin Wanwan know that right now she doesn't want to hear any more words. Although Chuzimo wasn't willing in his heart for now, he wisely chose to leave. Wait until he left. Pretending as if nothing had ever happened, calmly stepped into the bathroom. When I came out, there were still a few traces of water lingering on my face. A casual glance would tell you I had just finished washing up. My physical body right now is still quite young, right at the age when the skin is most plump and supple, coupled with fair skin and clearly defined angular facial features under the light. It looked as smooth as a peeled hard-boiled egg, making people unable to help wanting to pinch it to see if the texture was exceptionally good or not. Lin Wanwan stared at me intently, her gaze turning profound. Such a vibrant teenager had once used their entire life to love her deeply, loving her with all his heart and soul, yet she threw him away like a worn-out shoe. She couldn't imagine how badly I had been treated by her in the past, only to hear such a sorrowful inner voice late at night. One's mood at this moment was extremely complicated, but I didn't have that much mindset to spare. Right now, I just wanted to take a really good nap, so my energy would be fully recharged for tomorrow's lecture, all the way until lying down on the bed and burrowing under the covers during the entire process. I didn't spare her a single glance, completely treating Lin Wanwan like air. In Lin Wanwan's eyes flashed a trace of annoyance. She let out a soft cough to try and attract my attention. I also pretended to give her a little face by turning my head to look at her. What's wrong? Is your throat uncomfortable? Lin Wanwan coughed a few more times. Pour me a sip of water, please. I had just laid down and really didn't want to drag myself up, but in this situation, not getting up wasn't an option. I had no choice but to wear an unwilling expression as I stepped out of bed. After pouring the cup of water and turning back the action, feeding her water was extremely rough. It couldn't even be called feeding water anymore. It was forcing down her throat. Oh, you this Muchen. Under my unyielding efforts, Wanwan's defense failed completely, choking on the water so hard she coughed continuously. Sorry about that, I was so sleepy, but I lost focus a bit. This apology did not have half a point of sincerity, written clearly across my face in 5 words. I did it on purpose to torture you. Let's see if you still dare to boss me around with your status next time, choke. Death. To you my inner thoughts would be said to be extremely vicious. In Lin Wanwan's eyes, anger blazed to the heavens. Just she was about to open her mouth to lecture me, she suddenly saw something and instantly froze right in place. A few seconds passed. She laughed out of extreme anger. "Ben, what are you doing with my face towel?" I glanced at the light blue towel hanging on the doorknob, responding listlessly. "Wiping my feet." "What else?" "That's a towel used for wiping the face. For the past few days, nurse has used it to wipe my face every day. Couldn't be more familiar with it," I put on an exaggeratedly shocked expression. "Oh, I didn't know. But a couple of days ago when I stayed here, I used it to wipe my feet too." "Don't tell me you—" I didn't finish my sentence, hurriedly biting my tongue back, and looked at her, with a gaze mixed with disgust and pity. Lin Wanwan kept quiet without saying a word, only staring at me with an icy gaze. I don't know how much time passed. Her lips slowly curled up, letting out a low, inexplicable chuckle. I suspect she might have gone pissed out of her mind. What if she really snapped, crawled up, and dealt with me? That would be game over. How about I rein it in a little bit? That matter. I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Lin Wanwan slowly curved upward, letting out a soft, baffling laugh. I suspected, could she have been pissed to the point of madness? What if she really went crazy and forced herself to crawl up to deal with me? That would be game over. Should I tone it down a bit? That matter was just a joke. Please don't take it seriously. Lin Wanwan didn't believe my ghost stories at all, her expression turning gloomy as she loudly called out, "Jihuiki, you come in here." My expression instantly bounced back, a bad premonition surging in my heart. This woman definitely had bad intentions. Jihuiki, who had been hanging around, waiting outside the door, all this time, heard the call and immediately pushed the door open to step in. Her gaze swept across my face, picking up a Yamato faint smile. Miss Lin. Jihuiki walked up to the side of the hospital bed and stood solemnly, bowing slightly. "Do you have any instructions from today onward? Keep a close eye on the man behind me. Do not allow him to leave the hospital, even half a step." As soon as I heard that, I blew my top, sternly questioning her. "On what grounds are you restricting my freedom?" "On the grounds that I am his legal wife." Lin Wanwan gave a cold snort. "Even if I wasn't his wife, as long as I don't want you to leave the hospital." "Ward, what can you possibly do to me?" I was so angry, I was left speechless, using power and status to bully others. What's fun about that? Can't even play fair, huh? This was the first time she saw me lost for words, her mood immediately improving quite a bit. "Whenever you learn how to be obedient, then I will let you leave. Otherwise, just wait until I'm discharged and obediently follow me out of here." I narrowed my eyes slightly at Lin Wanwan. Why on earth did I blindly throw myself at her in the first place? Could it be solely because of this pretty face? Before reincarnation, I didn't realize it, but looking at it now, it really is true, because after stripping away the love filter, I finally discovered that besides having a pretty face, it was practically useless at everything else. Lin Wanwan heard my inner thoughts, her gaze unable to stop darkening. She understood clearly that right now, I deeply resented her. Using this method would only make me resent her even more. However, I was always like a hedgehog, wrapping myself up to protect my fragile heart, stabbing anyone who touched me, completely overflowing with aggressive energy. She had already tried the soft approach, but I simply didn't want to talk nicely with her. Right now, she could only adopt this inferior strategy first, wrapping me tightly by her side and not letting me run around. boiling a pea frog. In warm water, just taking it slow, step by step. Sooner or later, she would make me calm down and able to talk properly. Fine if you say so. What else can? Even do I simply flopped back down onto the bed and decided to completely let go. Well then, I won't go to school anymore, and will focus on staying here to take care of you. I looked toward Lin 11, tilting my head with a smile as I added, guaranteed to take such good care of you that when you get discharged, you'll look like you never even suffered a car accident. This was definitely sarcastic counterspeech. If Lin 11 didn't catch that, it would be a miracle. But her expression didn't change at all, giving a bland nod. In response, good. I hope you practice what you preach. At this moment, I had nothing on my mind, and Lin 11 couldn't pierce through my thoughts either, so she didn't say anything more. I once again lay down on the bed, staring intently at the wall while secretly gritting my teeth. This wicked woman dares to bully me. Well, you just keep your eyes open and watch. Before getting discharged, don't expect a single day of this. In my past life, she tied me up and led to my demise. This time, no matter what anyone says, I'll absolutely not. Lin 11, upon hearing those inner thoughts, furrowed her brows, tied up and led to demise. Just where on earth did he trap me back then? Lin 11 was filled with a belly full of doubts, continuing to listen, but harvesting no further valuable information. She turned her head to look toward the adjacent bed, only to find that at some point, I had already turned around to face her, my eyes tightly shut, looking completely fast asleep, which made her so furious she bit down hard on her teeth. She had been racking her brain, trying to figure out what I had gone through previously, thinking until her head hurt. Yet look at me falling right asleep, so I don't know from what moment I had already turned around to face her, my eyes tightly shut, the look of having fallen fast asleep making her so pissed. She clenched her teeth tightly. She kept racking her brain, trying to figure out what kind of things I had been through previously, thinking until her head hurt. Yet as for me, well, look at me passing out, snoring soundly, truly mere free to an admirable degree. Lin 11 sulked to herself for quite a while, before finally consenting to close her eyes, sinking into a dreamless sleep. The next morning when I woke up, Lin 11 was still fast asleep. I glanced at the phone on the bedside table, picked it up, and tapped. Directly play a song. Please bring my song back home, friend. Please leave your smile for tomorrow. The harsh music echoed throughout the entire hospital room. Lin 11 furrowed her brows tightly in her sleep, and very quickly after that snapped her eyes wide open. She glared with a low voice toward me and barked, "What do you think you're doing?" "Listening to music." "What else?" I beamed a bright smile. "I have a habit of listening to music when I wake up. So sorry, did I disturb you knowing it's disturbing?" "Why'd you deliberately turn it on?" Lin 11 wished she could move. Otherwise, she would definitely have jumped up to choke me. I casually shrugged. "Normally, when I wake up, I'm all alone, momentarily forgetting your existence." Lin 11 took a deep breath. A living person was lying right there, in front of her, but I could still utter such heartless words. "Right, I definitely did it on purpose. Turn it off for me right now," Lin 11 coldly ordered. "Anyway, since you're already awake, now what else am I turning off for? Listen to some music with me for a while. Music helps people relax their mood. With a comfortable mood, the body can recover faster. I'm only doing this entirely for your own good." If Lin 11 couldn't hear my inner thoughts, she might actually have believed these ghost words. This man was banned from leaving the hospital and carried a revenge mentality, so he dragged me out to torture. Here I have plenty of time to teach you how to behave. Lin 11 gave a cold snort to see who had more stamina. My gaze instantly turned sharp. Aside from making threats, do you know how to do any other tricks? Lin 11 gently curved the corners of her lips. No need to know if I have other tricks or not, as long as this trick is useful. That's enough. Just shutting you up is sufficient. Jihaiki brings food every day at exactly 7 o'clock, right on time. Jihaiki knocked on the hospital room door. Lin 11 looked towards the door. "Come in." The words barely left her mouth when the door was gently pushed open. Jihaiki placed the thermal food container on this bedside table, then slightly bent over to say, "Miss Lin, there is a file. Needs you to look over." Lin 11 indifferently nodded, slowly looked at Jihaiki, and curiously asked, "You stand guard outside the door every day. Don't you need to rest?" "Don't stand guard here the whole time. There are other colleagues swapping shifts with me." Jihaiki opened the files while turning her head to slowly reply, "Well, what a coincidence then. Every time I step outside, I always run into your shift." I broke into a sweet smile, looking extremely handsome and charming under the sunlight. Lin 11 cast a glance at me, a sense of displeasure instantly welling up in her heart. She didn't open her mouth to say anything more. Jihaiki held the files. Lin 11 finished reading one page and nodded, and she immediately flipped to a new page. The pile of documents was quickly read through. "You sign for me instead." Lin 11's voice was very calm. "Yes, Miss Lin." Jihoiki folded the documents, preparing to turn and leave. I raised my head to ask after her. Have you eaten breakfast yet? I've eaten. Jihoiki paused for a beat, then politely added, Thank you, Muchen, for caring. Smiled without continuing to ask further. Jihoiki, what are you still standing there for? Lin Wanwan asked with full dissatisfaction, staring at the two of us. How could Jihoiki dare to linger for another second? She gave a nod to me and then hurriedly scurried out of the hospital room. Why are you so fierce? Having someone glare like that feels so wronged on Jihoiki's behalf. Lin Wanwan smiled a smile born from being pissed off by me. In my eyes, her suddenly smiling looked truly terrifying. I put on head with me and then hurriedly scurried out of the hospital room. Why are you so fierce? Like that, having someone check like this feels so aggrieved. On behalf of Shujaki, Lin Wanwan smiled a smile born from being pissed off by me. From my perspective, the sight of her suddenly smiling looked truly terrifying. I put on a disgusted look and abruptly turned my face away. The side. Lin Wanwan was choked up to her wits' end, and me with a belly full of frustration, coldly declaring, Chin, from now on you must wholeheartedly take care of me if I feel dissatisfied in any way. I absolutely won't let you off playing like this. Is boring to death. My expression instantly turned extremely ugly. Chuzimo is back in the country. Why don't you hurry up and call him over to take care of you? Keeping a tight grip on me and refusing to let go. What the heck is wrong with you, Lin Wanwan sneered. I do it because I like to. A mocking smile instantly surfaced on my face. I see. You're just feeling sorry and can't bear to let Lin Wanwan suffer, right? Can you be a bit more fake? That piece of work, Chuzimo, is human, and I am not human. Lin Wanwan admitted that this sentence definitely could piss her off, but she didn't want to make me hate her even more, so she only slowly shook her head. Shook my head. I feel that. You seem much more convenient to boss around. Boss me around more convenient is what the heck. My facial expression was truly speechless, not knowing how to describe it. Lin Wanwan, did the doctor conclude that your brain has issues or something? If it doesn't have any issues, I bet they definitely misdiagnosed you. Don't worry, my brain is still very clear and sharp. Lin Wanwan smiled, her lips curving. Absolutely more than enough to discipline you. Lin Wanwan's eyes were naturally narrow and long when not smiling, giving people an extremely hard-to-mess-with vibe. But when she smiled, it carried a demonic, bewitching charm that was out of the ordinary. In my past life, I fell into the web of love at first sight also because every time we met, I always yearned for her to smile at me. Too bad Lin Wanwan was someone who didn't like to smile. Even if she did smile, that smile was reserved solely for others while facing me, forever with a cold demeanor. Therefore, right now, I utterly detested her smile. This damn smile at once plunged me into the depths of despair, only to sink, for eternity, with no hope of redemption. My mood suddenly took a nosedive, dodging her gaze as I put coldly, whatever you say. I'm going to brush my teeth and wash my face. The words just leaving my mouth. I turned on my heel and strode really fast into the bathroom, slamming the door shut behind me. I stood silently in front of the sink, turning on the faucet to let the water run, adjusting it to the coldest temperature, cupping a handful of water. I dashed it hard against my face. The wounds from my past life were carved too deeply into my very bones. Even though I had let go long ago, the scars left behind by that pain were still vividly there, with no way at all to fade away. That was a trauma that required trading an entire lifetime to heal. I couldn't continue like this anymore. I had to maintain the furthest distance possible, absolutely not allowing her to influence me even a tiny bit more. Obediently endure until she's discharged from the hospital. And from now on, she takes her wide road while I cross my single plank bridge, with well water not interfering with river water, having mapped out the plan in my head. I washed my face clean and stepped back outside, walking up to the bedside table with a deadpan face, to open the lid of the thermal food container, getting ready to feed Lin Wanwan. All those trains of thought just now inside the bathroom had slipped straight into Lin Wanwan's ears without missing a single word. Her expression was extremely complex, staring intently at me as if wanting to say something, but in the context where I was, extremely repulsive. There really wasn't anything worth saying out loud. Weighing the pros and cons, she chose silence. I strictly adhered to my previous decision, burying my head and obediently feeding Lin Wanwan throughout the entire process without uttering a single word. Both of them sank into an eerie silence, and seemingly no one wanted to break the quiet atmosphere. When Lin Wanwan finished eating, I picked up the remaining food container, opened it, and ate my own portion. After eating and drinking my fill, I looked at Lin Wanwan and spoke in a flat tone. Now that I think about it, I've been absent from school for so long, eating and drinking our fill. I looked at Lin Wanwan and flatly spoke up. Now that you mention it, I've been absent from school for a long time. So this time, I'm sure you'll help me handle it properly. Right, Lin Wanwan nodded. I'll have Heike take care of these trivial matters. To her, it's just like a grain of sand, just saying a greeting, word, and it's completely solved. That's why having power and status is truly formidable. It can blow away 99% of worries in this world. And the remaining 1% is because you don't have enough money and enough power. Thanks. Then I stood up from my chair. I'll go find the nurse to get some medicine. Later on, the nurse will bring it over herself. I pretended not to hear what she said, turning around, walk straight outside. I just wanted to try my best to limit sharing the same space with her. Otherwise, was afraid I wouldn't be able to hold back and would let loose a curse. Staying away from Lin Wanwan would be my living mantra during this time. Outside the hospital room, there was a man wearing a suit standing there. I knew him. He was the secretary who had followed Lin Wanwan for many years, named Shuhua. Seeing me there, wasn't even a single smile on Suhua's face. He just gave me a symbolic nod, completely with no intention of greeting me. The reason he hated me was both similar and different from Lin Wanwan. It was similar in that he also thought I was unworthy, different in that he actually deluded himself into thinking he was worthy. My family background had declined, but no matter what, I was still a young master. My appearance wasn't bad either, and my education level was very high. Just where on earth was I unworthy of Lin Wanwan? I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Why did so many people have that kind of thinking? Could it be that I really was that incompetent, just because I hadn't realized it myself? Even if I was incompetent, I was still stronger than this guy in front of me, right? On what grounds did he think I wasn't worthy while he was? The more I thought about it, the more annoyed I felt in my heart, deciding to walk straight past, but then I changed my mind. I stopped right in front of him, a meaningful smile blooming on my lips, a smile that made Shuha feel uncomfortable. He stepped backward. After taking a step back, frowned and asked, "Do you need something?" "You don't need to put on such a front." Shuhua let out a sarcastic laugh. His gaze looking at me was extremely contemptuous. Even if he didn't say a single word, I had more than enough ability to understand his meaning. "Someone like you is even worthy." I raised my hand and pinched the employee badge on his chest. "Chuhua, my name is Shu Hanato." Chuhua used all his might, bat my hand away, to think the person who failed the county's university entrance exam is actually illiterate. It's truly worrying for your future patients. I hope I'm among them. Smiled with a grin, counterattacking. Chuhua's gaze darkened. He irritably waved his hand, just like shooing away a plague spirit. "If there's nothing else, then please leave. Don't disturb me at work. You call this working?" I was so shocked my jaw dropped. "Are you an uncle janitor doing cleanup?" I cast my eyes around in a circle, my face full of doubt as I asked, "So where are the cleaning tools?" Shen Shuhua angrily called out my full name. "If you're sick, hurry up and go to the psychiatric department to get checked out. I don't have time to bicker with you. You think everyone is as idle as you think everyone has a gentle and easy-to-bully temperament." My expression suddenly turned cold, my aura exploding in the blink of an eye. "You're just a lowly secretary beside my wife. On what grounds do you dare to have such an arrogant attitude like this? Could it be that you're my wife's lover? Which is why you have the guts to resist like this?" "Mr. Mew, please watch your words. President Lin and I are completely clean. It's not your turn here to slander us." Shuhua's face was filled with pure outrage. "It's simply because you're too bold and daring, right?" I let out a cold laugh, leaning my face close to his ear. "I truly admire your courage, but unfortunately, I don't like that attitude. Please have some self-awareness of your own status. Next time you see me, show a bit more respect, or else I'll make you get kicked out of the company and forever lose the chance to be by Lin Wanwan's side." Chuhua's expression changed in the blink of an eye. I stepped back one step, retracting my cold demeanor and recovering my normal look. "I'm not scaring you, know." Chuhua took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. Changed. I took a step back, pulling back my cold expression and recovering. "I wasn't trying to scare you at all, you know." Chuhua took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. "Again, I'm President Lin's person. What right do you have to demand to decide coming and going? If you don't believe it, just try and see. Even though I don't have that right, I have more than enough capability to do so." Speaking song, I turned around and walked away without bothering to look back. Even Lin Wanwan and Chu Zimo couldn't even tolerate, so what the hell was a petty Suhua that I had to care about anyone who dared to make me unhappy? I would definitely make their life a living hell. Actually, originally, I didn't even intend to find a nurse. I went downstairs to buy a can of coffee. Afterwards, I sat opposite the main door, leisurely, sitting on a chair while drinking water and silently observing the situation outside. I didn't know if there were 911 spies outside or not. Just as I was about to stand up, I slowly sat back down. The chances were high that there were. Once Lin Wanwan had personally given the order, her underlings would definitely, strictly obey. But to keep being placed under house arrest in this hospital, forever, my heart really felt a bit resentful. I drank up the remaining coffee in just one gulp, crushing the coffee can as I strode straight toward the door. Even if there were people guarding outside, I had to personally go out there and try it once. Once I tried it, then I could completely and thoroughly give up rather than always brooding in my heart and feeling annoyed. Sir, please turn back. As expected, things were just like what I imagined. One of my feet hadn't even managed to step out of the main entrance when a bodyguard appeared to block my path. I quietly pulled my foot back, smiling a strange smile at him and mocking. You really do your job with such heart. Keep up the good work. Sir, you flatter me. Did you really think I was praising you? My chest felt as if it were suppressed by a ball of anger. Water wouldn't flow down, and venting it out wouldn't work either. The feeling was truly too stifling and uncomfortable. I stood motionless in place for a long while before pulling myself together when, accidentally walking past a trash can, I hurled the empty coffee can straight into tea to vent my anger. Upstairs, when walking into Lin Wanwan's hospital room, a nurse was carefully changing the bandages for her. I cast a glance, sweeping across the wound on her arm, my brow involuntarily twitching slightly. With such a serious wound, when it healed, it would definitely leave a scar, and it wasn't even clear whether in the future could recover to the way it was before. Hold on, why was I thinking about these nonsense things, or whether she left a scar or not? What the hell did it have to do with me? My brain must really be flooded with water. Perhaps I simply thought that her face was indeed a supreme masterpiece among humans, as beautiful as a flawless work of art. If it left a blemish, it really would be a bit too regrettable. Having thought that to myself, my expression also turned. Finished drinking coffee, I felt a bit thirsty, so I walked toward the water dispenser to pour myself a cup. The nurse suddenly tilted, her head curiously sizing me up. Right at that moment, I accidentally met her gaze. I smiled a smirk, once again unable to control my itchy mouth, and blurting out a teasing remark. Is this nominal wife of mine pretty? The nurse was made dumbfounded by my out-of-nowhere question for a few seconds before she dazedly nodded and replied, "She's very pretty." I followed up. "Then I'll gift the nurse a smile. Don't be polite. She really is pretty." The nurse suddenly became extremely embarrassed. I also realized that I had run my mouth off just now, hurriedly clamping my mouth shut and not daring to utter another word, placing the cup of water down on the table and sprawling out on the bed. Lin Wanwan snapped her eyes wide open, staring fixedly at the nurse and barking, "Be quicker with your movements. Pay attention to what you're doing." Her voice was brimming with impatience and crankiness. The nurse was scared shitless and instantly sped up her pace, which was clearly 3 times faster than just a moment ago. Not even waiting until she finished changing all the bandages, the nurse panicked and bolted like flying out of the hospital room. Look at that, scaring other people's daughters so much that truly only my blind, bold, and daring self in the past could fail to see that shrew. Scared her away completely. That kind of vibe. Who would ever dare like her? Living with her every day, you might just burst your heart and die. Lin Wanwan's veins popped out visibly, as she didn't know whether that Chu Zimo genuinely liked her or simply treated her as a tool to climb up in life. If it really was the latter, then I could only sigh and utter a single sentence: her life was too tragic, though it was also brought upon herself. Suddenly, the cold, shrill voice of the woman made me jump in surprise. I panicked, bolting upright from the sofa and putting on dazed, innocent face, staring blankly. Why on earth did she suddenly scream out my name so loudly? For no reason. Lin Wanwan, of course, couldn't confess that she had heard inner thoughts, but that kind of abruptly attacking me without saying anything, in my eyes, was simply the malicious act of someone being deliberately unreasonable. It was simply too unreasonable and incomprehensible. Right now, how was she any different from a madman with a tyrannical personality being scolded wrongfully for a moment? I was also so aggrieved that, "Miss, what's wrong with you?" was starting to think she was truly out of her mind. Wanwan sullenly swallowed this frustration down into her stomach. In my thoughts, my gaze looking at her grew increasingly filled with disgust. She really was sick in the head. Closed my eyes and decided not to bother saying another word to her, turning around to continue lying down on the sofa, closing my eyes to rest my mind. For the next few days, I absolutely did not utter a single extra word. And Wanwan seemed to also see through my thoughts, so she didn't bother trying to communicate with me anymore either. This peaceful state dragged on all the way until now, when I gradually began to feel a little bit and my body bristled up with spikes to guard against her. Whenever there was a chance, I would intentionally piss her off. But the funny thing was that this seemed to be what she was waiting for the most, that I still bothered to speak to her. As long as the two of us still maintained interaction, even if we argued to her, that still proved there was still a ray of hope to break the deadlock. If we kept maintaining the Cold War like this, it would only end up in silence forever. The day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the doctor finally announced that she could take care of herself now. Hearing the news, Madame Chen was overjoyed. She woke up early in the morning to head to the hospital, perhaps because she was extremely happy inside. Her face for once rarely looked cheerful. However, her gaze glancing at me still contained plenty of indifference. She shoved an apple she had just peeled into Lin Wanwan's hand. I used the calmest tone possible to speak up. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. You should at least let me go home to celebrate the holiday. Right, fine. Lin Wanwan originally intended to let me go anyway, which was why she nodded in agreement quite readily. Staying cooped up in this hospital was driving me insane. Seeing her agree, I immediately turned around and strode off without looking back. My walking speed was extremely hasty and quick, just like there was a fierce beast chasing behind me, till my figure completely vanished from sight. Madame Chen slowly withdrew her gaze. She looked straight at Lin Wanwan, her tone brimming with solemnity. Mother doesn't intend to interfere in your personal romantic affairs. Mother just wants to ask what on earth you're thinking right now, Lin. Wanwan lazily lifted her eyelids slightly and replied, "Aren't you afraid of being threatened? Or do you want another share? For now, I don't have that intention." Madame Chen wasn't surprised by this answer at all. She wasn't a fool after all. Wanwan, her tune overflowing with solemnity. Mom doesn't have any intention to meddle in your personal romantic affairs, but Mom just wants to ask what on earth you're thinking right now. Lin Wanwan lazily lifted her eyelids slightly and asked back, "Aren't I being threatened? Or do you want another portion of it? For now, I don't have any intention of that." Su Tulan was completely unsurprised by this answer. She wasn't a fool after all. She's not some total fool after all. Right, having experienced so many things throughout this period of time, how could her own daughter begin to develop an interest in someone? It's just that deep down in her heart, she always wondered and felt unclear why her daughter used to utterly detest this son-in-law. Yet all of a sudden, her attitude completely flipped at 180 degrees like this. The person she liked wouldn't always be that person, right? Don't want to divorce? Then don't divorce anymore. And Madame Chen momentarily showed hesitation, but then she still continued speaking. It's just that Mother really doesn't fancy him at all, even that guy Chuzimo. Mother doesn't like either. If possible, it's best you still find someone of equal social status and family background to ours. Someone who can also help and support you in business. Lin Wanwan knew very well that her mother in the end was only, her gaze flashed, the trace of gloom and fatigue. I am not the kind of useless woman who without career success would fail miserably. Mother. What Mother means isn't like that, Mother, just the words following. Madame Chen hadn't yet managed to spit out, choked up in her throat, and turned into a sigh full of heartbreak and distress. Oh well, forget it, you're all grown up. Just figure out your own life. Lin Wanwan tightly pressed her lips together, remaining silent without uttering another word. Usually the two mother and daughter of this household also ran out of topics to chat with each other. The atmosphere dead silent. Madame Chen simply took out her phone to text others just to cure the boredom. As for me, after leaving the hospital, I went straight to find little Bei. This year, she was in the 12th grade. The crucial college entrance exam was approaching, and the academic and exam pressure was extremely heavy. Precisely because she wanted to save travel time back and forth between home and school, she had directly moved into the dormitory to live full-time. Today was the Mid-Autumn Festival. High school gave a holiday break, so no matter what, she would pack her things and return home. The relationship between the two brother and sister was extremely close. I immensely loved this sensible, well-behaved younger sister, perhaps because both children had to endure the cold treatment from Su Tuilan. Two people sharing the same circumstances naturally made my brotherly heart feel even more deeply pining and longing. As soon as I stepped across the front door of my house, I had loudly called out my sister's name. Little Bei eagerly poked her head out from the upstairs room on the second floor. I quietly stood still looking at her, momentarily falling into a panicked state. Right before I was tossed into the hospital for recuperation, she was about to graduate high school and become a mature, beautiful young lady. Now, seeing that little figure once again inside me, there was a hazy, illusory, unreal feeling. When did you get back home? I hurriedly pulled myself together out of the dream, smiling and waving my hand to call the younger sister. Standing upstairs. Hurry down. Here, come down for your brother to take a good look at you. Little Bee immediately ran down the stairs, pitter-patter with joy, running up in front of me and opening her arms wide to embrace me tightly. She buried her face against my shoulder. acting spoiled as she called out Big Brother. Missed you so much, I missed you, too. I gently reached out my hand to stroke the back of her head lightly. With a deep, warm tone, I gently spoke. Studying hard at school. You must be very tired, right, little Bay? Smiled brightly, shaking her head vigorously. Not tired at all. This girl, even if she was tired, she wouldn't bother complaining. You're the one who understands me. Don't work yourself to the bone studying, whenever there's time to rest. Just obediently, take a rest. Your own health is the most important thing. Yes, I know already, brother. Right at this moment, Lihang walked out from the restroom. Seeing the scene of the two siblings hugging each other tightly, kind immensely satisfied smile appearing on his face. However, Su Tuilan, just stepping out of her bedroom and witnessing this warm scene of sibling bonding downstairs, a gentle immensely satisfied smile appeared on his face. However, Su Tuilan, just stepping out of the bedroom and witnessing this scene of warm sibling bonding downstairs, not only didn't crack a smile, but instead knitted her brows tightly in a scowl, snapping, Xiaobi, when you come home, stop clinging so much to your older brother. Toward your own mother, don't even bother showing any face, people not knowing might even mistake him for your father. These words, spoken by her, really didn't sound pleasing to the ear at all. Hearing this too, Hung's heart instantly flared up, unable to hold back any longer. He raised his voice heavily. Su Tuilan, today's a holiday for family reunion. Why must you open your mouth with nothing but harsh, bitter words? If you don't like listening, then don't listen. Su Tuilan glared at Tu Hong, throwing a look at him. Cut it out with your shouting and roaring at me. If you dare lose your temper at me again, then, on this holiday, no one will get to spend it in peace. Fan Xiaobei released both hands from my body. The girl turned her head back and threw a glare at her. Mom, can you please stop starting trouble for once? The girl was blessed to inherit completely the sharp, exquisite features from Su, thus possessing an extremely pretty appearance. She was just wearing an ordinary student uniform, yet she still managed to exude kind of trendy, charismatic vibe, just like a female protagonist who had just stepped right out of a comic book. Clearly your dad shouted loudly at me first, facing this delicate, pleasant-looking face of her daughter. Su Tuilan very rarely managed to spit out excessive scolding, so she had no choice to redirect her grievance. Clearly at the beginning it was, Mom talks bitterly, yet when Mom talks wrong, she still doesn't let others rebut her. Why again, Mu Xiaobi? Maintaining a cold expression, she bluntly replied. Su Tuilan instantly opened her eyes wide in shock. Mu Xiaobi, since when did you get so bold as to dare step out and lecture me, planning to rebel and climb on top of my head, right? Mu Xiaobi sulkily puffed up her cheeks with sullen grievance. If it were me left behind, my very first reaction would definitely be to assert that my mom was deliberately picking a fight. But now, I instead understood that all those actions stemmed from her simply craving attention. Yet she was too clumsy and completely lacked that trait called pride, and never willing to lower herself. That was why she had to resort to unprovoked bickering tricks. Right at this critical fiery moment, I had to step up to mediate. I know Mom is afraid. Xiaobi is tired, and Xiaobi keeps clinging to me like that, leaving me no time to rest properly. It's just that Dad and Xiaobi didn't quite understand Mom's hidden pain yet. On this holiday, Mom don't fuss and bicker over trifles. The stepping stone, step down from that I had just paved for her. Su Tuilan stared straight into my face for a long time. Right after that, she coldly snorted, I am simply not going to waste any time bickering with these people. It's good that Mom isn't angry anymore. Later, I'm planning to personally go down to the kitchen to make a few dishes. Mom, hurry into the kitchen. Help give me a hand. Rolling up my sleeves in preparation, turned my gaze toward Mu Liheng and excitedly spoke up. Dad, recently I picked up a few new recipes and secretly practiced cooking them over and over again. Personally, I judge the flavor to be pretty delicious. Today, I definitely have to show off my skills to treat and let the whole family taste test. This brat actually knows how to go learn cooking. Mu Liheng heard me finish rambling and burst out laughing heartily. Then I'll patiently sit here and wait to see just how awesome my son's cooking skills really are. I guarantee that Dad will be extremely satisfied. In the past, to rack my brains to win favor with Lin Wanwan's family, poured countless amounts of sweat and effort into domestic chores. If I didn't dare boast my skills compared to restaurant chefs, at least my culinary skills could still be ranked among the excellent tier. Therefore, Mu Liheng won't be disappointed. This little punk, day you even dare to order me around? Su Tuilan mumbled and complained while poking her finger roughly at my forehead. Even though her mouth spat out hateful and critical words, in the end, she still obediently shuffled along behind. In the living room right now, only my father and younger sister were left. Two father and daughter sat next to each other on the sofa, leisurely chatting about all sorts of things, before easily bringing up the traffic accident causing the child's face to instantly turn cold and project an aura of icy chill mother. Already recounted the whole story to me. Malibe let out a faint sarcastic laugh. She totally deserved it. Why did she have to make my big brother run back and forth there to serve and take care of her? Wasn't that clearly bullying people? Way too excessively. She never valued Big Brother before anyway. She just purposely used this opportunity to suppress him. Mulihang casually picked up a pack of cigarettes left on the coffee table. Whenever anyone mentioned this bitter piece of work, he would feel deeply distressed down to his guts. Could our family just stand by with folded arms and watch Big Brother get bullied forever like this? Ulibe's emotions were a bit agitated. Keep your voice down a little. Mulihang knitted his brows so tightly they were almost tangled. Dad feels sorry for your brother too, but you also know how much he loves Lin Wanwan. If we go over there to demand justice and upset Lin Wanwan, the one who suffers in the end will still be your brother. Ulibe clenched her hands into fists, gritting her teeth as she said, "We should have fought tooth and nail to stop him in the first place, absolutely not letting him marry that woman. If Dad hadn't let him marry her, would he have dared to go on a hunger strike for you to see? Otherwise, do you think Dad could have agreed?" Willihang took a deep drag of his cigarette. Letting him taste a bit of suffering is also a good thing. Once he can't take it anymore naturally, he will get a divorce. Mulibe's expression remained extremely grim. I hope it really turns out that way. I was in the kitchen, completely unaware of this conversation, totally clueless that my family was worried about me. I finished washing a basket of vegetables and handed it to Su Tuilan for her to shred. Just looking at my expression, anyone could tell my mood was fantastic, so happy. I was practically about to hum a tune. Su Tuilan turned her head to glance at me. "What's there to be so happy about? Being back home." "Of course I'm happy," I replied with a squinting smile. "Just because of this. This alone is enough to make me happy." I lowered my eyes, softly sighing. There's truly no place like home. Nothing better than being with family. That much is definitely true. Mother thought she wouldn't let you come back today. Looks like she still has a shred of human conscience. Su Tuilan paused, her vegetable chopping, her face filled with suspicion and bewilderment, unable to understand what on earth Wanwan was thinking. Wasn't Chuzimo back in the country already? Why didn't she keep him stationed by her side every day, instead of making you stand guard at the hospital? How would I know? I'm completely speechless about it too, for she found even an extra glance from me annoying. Who knows which nerve in her brain got short-circuited this time? No matter which nerve got short-circuited once, you've decided to withdraw your feelings and are determined to divorce her. You must absolutely not let her bewitch you into going back to grovel and suck up to her. I know already. Unless my brain is diseased, it has a severe tendency to enjoy abuse. Would I ever fall for her again? Seeing that I still hadn't wavered at all, Su Tuilan nodded in satisfaction, thinking, "It's best if you can stay firm like that. Her. And there are plenty of other good women out there. Mom, you didn't talk like that before. You change your tune way too fast." I lightly bumped her shoulder, unable to resist teasing her. "Before I thought you were too infatuated and was afraid you'd regret it after getting a divorce, by which time it would be too late. Now that I see you to have completely given up hope, thinking that way is best. Just kick her out. There are plenty of good women." "Mom, back then you didn't say it like that. You also changed your mind way too fast." I lightly nudged her shoulder, unable to help myself from teasing before. "You thought I was too clingy and afraid that after divorcing, I'd regret it. And by that time, it would be too late. Now, you see that I seem to have completely given up hope. Then get a divorce as soon as possible." Perhaps because I constantly coaxed her now, she was also willing to pour her heart out. To chat, Su Tuilan and I chatted while working, our movements extremely agile. I prepared to make my 3 signature dishes, leaving the other dishes for the maid to handle later. Once the vegetables had been washed and chopped, I began stir-frying skillfully. Su Tuilan no longer had anything left to help with, standing by the side, watching me. Stay busy. I whiled away, stir-frying vegetables and chatting with her, smile on my lips, never fading. "Why are you so happy?" Su Tuilan smiled and asked. "Getting to celebrate the holiday with family, and also getting to cook food for everyone to enjoy." "Of course I'm happy." Su Tuilan softly pursed her lips, lowered her eyes and remained silent without speaking. Actually, she had no concept of the word family. When she was young, her life was extremely tragic. Her father was a gambling ghost with a violent temper. Her mother couldn't stand it, so she abandoned her and left. Debt collectors came to the house day after day, demanding money. The house was frequently smashed to pieces. Her father didn't come home all day to avoid debts. Even if he did return, he only knew how to take out his anger on her to survive. She endured all kinds of bitterness. Even if her ribs were beaten to a break, she wouldn't shed a tear. A person living in such circumstances would either go crazy or become callous. At age 14, she ran away from that house, completely cutting off the shackles of the past. She had never known what a normal family looked like. On top of that, later on, in order to survive, She put on a thick layer of armor and equipped herself with the sharpest weapons. Therefore, after getting married, whether toward her husband or her children, she always appeared extremely indifferent. A person who had never been properly loved would know how to love others. Taking advantage of getting ingredients, glanced at her, seeing that she was leaning against the wall, staring blankly, without knowing what was on her mind. I wore a well-meaning smile, without disturbing her. I didn't know how much time had passed when Su Tuilan snapped out of her reverie, rolled up her sleeves, and walked toward the refrigerator. Well then, Mom will make 2 dishes too. Hearing this, my eyes suddenly lit up, instantly turning my head to look at her. Mom, you have to really show your skills then. It's been a long time since I got to eat food cooked by Mom. Did Mom ever cook food for me before? Su Tuilan's face was filled with confusion. Ever since marrying into this wealthy household as a lady, it seemed she had never set foot in the kitchen again. The smile on my face suddenly froze. I lowered my eyes and softly said, "Of course you cooked before. It's just that it was many years ago. You probably don't remember anymore." Su Tuilan gently nodded, thinking that it really was because she had forgotten. She didn't think much of it either. I quickly turned my head away, secretly letting out a sigh of relief. In this timeline where I was reborn and returned, actually I had never eaten a dish she cooked. Remembered back then. I ran home soaking wet in the rain, crying and complaining. And she didn't say a second word before going straight into the kitchen to cook for me. At that time, she asked me if I wanted a divorce, and I shook my head and refused without the slightest hesitation. The me back then was truly too foolish. It's a pity that back then I was so infatuated that I completely lost my sanity. What are you spacing out for so long? I was spacing out for too long. Broth in the pot was about to boil. So Su Tuilan hurriedly tapped my hand. I suddenly snapped back to reality, hastily grabbing the water pitcher to pour more into the pot. I was just deep in thought about things, that's all. Thinking about the divorce. Not really. A faint smile appeared at the corners of my mouth. She and I will get a divorce sooner or later. There's nothing to hesitate about. I just think my past self was too ridiculous. That's all. Everyone does foolish things when they're young. Don't overthink it anymore. From now on, just live your life well. I know, Mom. Reached out to pat her shoulder, grinning brightly. Guaranteed. Any young person make his foolish mistakes. Don't overthink things anymore. From now on, just live your life well. I know, Mom. I reached out and patted her shoulder, smiling brightly as I said, I promise. Whatever you say from now on, I'll listen. Facing my sudden intimacy, Su Tuilan showed extreme unfamiliarity, feeling a bit awkward. So she pulled my hand away and said very awkwardly, "Stop playing these tricks on me. It's so cringy. Death Mom really doesn't like you clinging to me like this." I once again reached out to wrap my arm around her shoulder and smiled. As I asked, "You say you don't like it?" But on the outside, Su Tuilan claimed she didn't like it yet this time. She didn't pull my hand away anymore. I smiled with satisfaction and didn't continue saying anything more. In the end, Mom and I each made 3 dishes and the home helper made 2 cold dishes. 8 delicacies were served on the table. I went to the living room to call everyone in to eat. Mulihang walked in and saw a table full of food, his face brimming with astonishment as he asked, "Good son, don't tell me all of this was made by you. If you made this many dishes alone, it would be pitch black by the time everyone had anything to eat." I pointed at the dishes on the table. These 3 dishes were made by me. I pointed at 3 other dishes. These 3 dishes were personally made by Mom, and the rest were handled by Aunt Lin. What did you say? My mom personally went into the kitchen to cook. Mulihang's eyes practically popped out of his head. Did Dad hear that right? For all the years we've been married, he had never been able to eat a single meal cooked by his wife, and now he finally waited until this day. Aside from being shocked, he was also immensely excited. Dad didn't hear wrong at all. It really was cooked by Mom, answered with a smile. Oh my God, this is truly raining cats and dogs today. This is really an eye-opener. Mulihang excitedly sat down at the chair, happily slapping his thigh with a smack. This is way too rare. Now Su Tuilan was teased by him until she was both embarrassed and annoyed, standing up straight to snap at him. Mulihang, we're eating a meal. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Fine, I'll shut my mouth. I'll obediently eat my food. Mulihang couldn't wait any longer and immediately grabbed his chopsticks, wanting to taste his wife's culinary skills. Once everyone was seated, he immediately cut a piece of food and quickly stuffed it into his mouth. The years of youthful struggle working odd jobs out in society had honed Su Tuilan's wonderful cooking skills. Even though she hadn't cooked for many years and was a bit rusty, the flavor was still extremely exceptional. This is so good, Mulihang gave a thumbs up, praising repeatedly. As expected of my wife, this skill is truly top-notch. Before, when he praised someone, he was always extremely straightforward. Su Tuilan couldn't stand his compliments the most, her two cheeks flushing slightly pink. But because there were two children present, she felt a bit awkward, turning embarrassment into anger. She told him to shut up and eat his food. Didn't she speak human language? Mulihang instantly and obediently took a bite. Seeing this scene, Mulibei and I looked at each other. Seeing this scene, Mu Xiaobi and I exchanged glances, radiant smiles blooming on both our faces. When parents have an affectionate relationship, the children naturally feel happy as well. Come and try the dish. Big brother made. I picked up some food and put it into my younger sister's bowl. Mulibei stared intently at the food in her bowl, her face showing doubt. Is this lily bulb? That's right. This dish is called braised lily bulb with pumpkin, I said as I scooped up a spoonful for myself. The thick, warm, smooth, and soft broth melted in my mouth. I nodded with extreme satisfaction. Looks like my culinary skills haven't rusted yet. Mulibei tried a bite, and her eyes instantly lit up. Big brother, this is so good. With that, she scooped up several large spoonfuls in a row, seeing that she liked eating it so much. Mom and Dad also reached out with their spoons to taste it. Eating both of them couldn't stop praising it. Muli, you really have a talent for cooking. Whoever marries you in the future will truly be blessed. Muli Hang held a glass of wine by his hand, drinking while observing my expression. He was intentionally using his words to probe me, testing whether I was still stubbornly clinging to Lin. One or not, how could I possibly not understand his intention? So I half-jokingly and half-seriously replied, Dad, you've raised me for so many years. I have to wait for Dad to enjoy blessings to the fullest first before. Adoptive Dad, you've raised me for so many years. I have to wait for you to enjoy blessings to the fullest before let some other woman enjoy it instead. These words of mine were clearly expressing my stance that I would get a divorce. Mulihang understood my stance and smiled even brighter, stretching the corners of his mouth all the way to his ears. That's right, it took me so much hard work to raise my son up. Can't just let someone else reap the benefits so easily. He has to show filial piety to me for a few more years. Anyway, I smiled, nodding, and didn't say anything further. Big brother. Mulibei softly called out to me. I leaned in closer, smiling as I asked, What is it? Nothing really. Mulibei looked at my profile with a silly smile. I just feel really happy. She also understood our conversation, feeling genuinely glad for me from the bottom of her heart. In the eyes of many, I didn't deserve in one, but in the eyes of my family, I was a priceless treasure. Before my rebirth, I hadn't realized this. Thankfully, the heavens gave me a chance to live my life over again. This time, I definitely cherish my family. The whole family gathered cosily to eat a reunion meal, everyone's mood feeling immensely refreshed. Right as we were about to leave the dining table, Aunt Lin walked in with a very troubled expression. Master, Madam, we have guests arriving. Su Tuilan asked who it was. Aunt Lin stammered for half a day. It's the family of Mukanhwa. Mukanhwa was the eldest brother of Mu Lihang. Back then, grandfather handed over the family estate to my dad. So Mukanhwa's family had always harbored resentment in their hearts. His wife was Trin, whose temper was shrewish. Every time she came, there was never a shortage of scenes, causing trouble. Today was the Mid-Autumn Festival, so they were obviously, deliberately, coming to pick a fight. Su Tuilan knew this very well, inside immediately instructing to have security block them and not let them in, just telling them we went out to celebrate the holiday. I'd just say that Mulihang didn't want to meet them either, at least today. He definitely did not want to. Aunt Lin hurriedly nodded in agreement. I'll go tell the security right now. After she left, I looked at Su Tuilan and spoke. Mom, just let them in. Can't let them keep coming to make trouble all the time. Don't you want to make them so mad their guts turn inside out either, but what can we do? Who told Mom's reputation to be full of blemishes back then, so she couldn't talk back to them? Su Tuilan let out a self-deprecating, bitter smile. Mom, don't talk about yourself like that. The ones full of blemishes are them. That's right. I let out a cold laugh. In my past life, I had learned many secrets. Mukanhwa's entire family wasn't clean in the slightest. Their shady deeds that couldn't see the light of day were countless. Therefore, I was extremely confident. As long as those three dared to step foot in here, I could curse them into such utter humiliation and disgrace that they'd tuck their tails between their legs and bolt straight out. Su Tuilan muttered, Son, what do you mean by that? You'll know when the time comes. I smiled with hidden meaning. Su Tuilan's gaze flashed slightly, but she didn't continue pressing the issue. She knew I wouldn't talk nonsense for no reason, and in her heart she already had her own calculations. Aunt Lin hadn't been gone for long before she came running back, her face completely pale and panicked. Master. Madam, I said, it's too late. The security didn't dare to block them forcefully, so they deliberately barged straight in. Su Tuilan extremely calmly nodded. Understood. Younger brother. Younger sister-in-law. Where is everyone? Tring M's grating voice echoed from outside, grating against the eardrums and making people feel extremely uncomfortable. Although we were mentally prepared when actually having to face their family, we still felt extreme discomfort. Oh my, are you guys eating dinner? Tring M appeared at the doorway of the dining room. She was over 40 years old this year, her figure somewhat stout and the lipstick on her lips extremely gaudy, looking glaring and making people feel very uncomfortable. In the dining room, no one bothered to pay attention to her. Trinam didn't feel embarrassed in the slightest, only seeing her beam a smile. Lihang's sister-in-law. We're family after all. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. Isn't it not quite right that you guys didn't invite the eldest brother's family over for a reunion dinner? That's right, Manhwa. She felt very uncomfortable. In the dining room, nobody bothered to pay attention to her, yet Trinam didn't feel awkward at all, only seeing her wide-mouthed smile. Liheng, my sister-in-law. Anyway, we're all family today, is the Mid-Autumn Festival. Isn't it a bit inappropriate that you didn't call the eldest branch over to have a reunion meal? That's right. Manhwa also poked her head out from behind her, pointing her finger straight at Muliheng to scold. Uncle Liheng, aren't you afraid of making your eldest brother by doing this? He and my dad were half-brothers from childhood. He never studied anything, only knowing how to loaf around and play, which was why Grandpa decided to hand the family business over to my dad. Every single time, he would bring up the company's crises to mock my dad, and my dad could only swallow his anger and bear it. My dad had no choice but to swallow his anger and bear with it. Let him poke around Uncle. This is still just lunchtime. Our family is just eating a simple meal of lotus root stir-fry. We were also planning to invite everyone over in the afternoon. I smiled and spoke up. Oh, isn't this Mu Chen? Why are you at home like this? Trinam turned to look at me, starting with a sarcastic passive-aggressive tone. I remember Lin Wanwan just suffered a serious car accident, so why aren't you? Was in such a serious car accident, don't you? Staying at the hospital to take care of her, instead. Running back home to stuff your face and have fun. Seeing that dramatic life or death act of yours, I bet you're just putting on a show, right? She was simply burning, just acting like a fish, right? She was simply jealous with envy because I managed to marry a good wife back when I married Lin Wanwan. The person most bitter about it was her. Auntie Wanwan's wounds are getting better day by day. If I don't smile, should I cry instead? She was afraid Dad and Mom would worry, so she endlessly persuaded me to come home for the holiday. Otherwise, how could I bear to leave her? I put on an act, letting everyone know they didn't need to worry about me, as I was living very happily now. Dealing with someone as fiercely competitive as this aunt of mine, the happier I acted, the more pissed off she would get. Sure enough, Trina's complexion turned extremely unsightly. My aunt sneered. Stop bluffing. Who doesn't know that she basically doesn't even like you? We're all family here. Who is fooling who anymore, Trinan? And you keep opening your mouth about being family. So why is your speech always laced with hidden daggers and swords? Su Tulan stood up and walked over behind my back, placing both hands on my shoulders. You're always daydreaming. You're a woman too. How could you possibly not understand a woman's true feelings? A fine young man from our family, looking this handsome. How can you be so certain that after getting married, she won't gradually grow to like this kid? Trinan's complexion instantly darkened, leaving her struck dumb without being able to say a single word. Even if you must speak, he was raised by Auntie. So how could Lin Wanwan possibly not like him? The person saying this wasn't the couple, Mu Liheng and Su Tulan, but their daughter Mu Yulu. She had inherited her mother's wretched nature to perfection, perhaps even worse, truly devoid of any moral boundaries whatsoever. Mu Yulu, with a banana stuffed in her mouth, swaggered arrogantly into the dining room, her strange gaze staring fixedly at me as she sneered, Mushan, how many days has it been, and you've gotten even more handsome? I gripped the tablecloth tightly, getting even more handsome. I gripped the tablecloth tightly, my eyes turning red with anger. I was so angry that my whole body was trembling, wishing I could sweep this wretched woman out of the house. Mu Yulu, what did you just mean by that? Mu Liheng stood up abruptly, shouting in rage. Just what? It says literally. Mu Yulu laughed teasingly. Auntie has been through so many battles. She definitely understands best. Everyone in our family changed expressions simultaneously. Liheng grew even more furious, slamming his hand heavily onto the table and shouting sternly, severely reprimanding her for being uneducated. Mu Yulu was startled back a few steps, leaning against the wall while fiercely glaring at my dad. Mu Liheng, what are you doing? Mu Qianhua couldn't stand seeing her daughter suffer, a grievance, rushing forward to give my dad a harsh shove. Watch your tone when you talk. What are you losing your temper for? Aunt listened to whether she was talking properly or not. Tulan is her elder, yet she dared let loose such insults. Does she regard me as anything at all? She is my daughter. Even if she said something wrong, it's still not your turn to discipline her. As soon as those words fell, Trinan grabbed a plate from the table, smashing it to pieces and picking up a shard also poked his head out from behind her, pointing a finger straight at Mulihang to scold Lihang. Aren't you afraid? Her older brother will be heartbroken if you do this. He and my dad were half-brothers, never studying anything since they were kids, only knowing how to loaf around and play. Which was why grandfather decided to hand the family business over to my dad every time he would drag up company crises to mock my dad, who could only swallow his anger and bear it, letting him poke fun. Eldest uncle. It's only noon right now, and our family was just having a simple meal of greens and stir-fried lotus roots. We were planning to call everyone over in the afternoon anyway. I smiled and spoke up. Oh, isn't this Muli? Why are you at home like this? Trinam turned to look at me, starting with a sarcastic tone. Didn't you just dote on Lane One and she just got into such a serious car accident? You're not at the hospital staying by her side to take care of her, yet you ran back home to eat and drink to your heart's content. Auntie thinks that kind of desperate for love act of yours must be just an act, right? She was simply dying of jealousy because I managed to get a good wife back. When I married Lin Wanwan, the person who was most bitter about it was her. Eldest Aunt Wanwan's injuries are getting better day by day. If I don't smile, should I cry? She was afraid Mom and Dad would worry, so she endlessly persuaded me come home for the holiday. Otherwise, how could I bear to leave her? I pretended to act deeply in love. Everyone doesn't need to worry about me. I am living very happily now, dealing with someone as extremely competitive as my eldest aunt. The happier I appeared, the more furious she would be. Sure enough, Trin Am's expression became extremely ugly. She sneered, "Stop spouting nonsense. Who doesn't know that she basically doesn't like you at all? We're all family here." Who is still a stranger to who? Trin Am. You open your mouth and say, "We're family." So why does your speech always sound so sarcastic and backhanded? Sutuilan stood up and walked behind me, placing both hands on my shoulders. You're always making wild assumptions. You're a woman too. How could you not understand a woman's mindset? Our Muley is so drop-dead handsome. How can you be so certain that after getting married, she won't gradually come to like the boy? Trin Am's expression instantly darkened, struck dumb, without being able to say a single word. That's right, was taught by my aunt. So how could Lin Wanwan possibly not like him? The person who said these words wasn't the couple Mu Manhwa, but rather their daughter, Mu Yulu. She inherited her mother's wretched nature to perfection. Even worse, in fact, completely lacking any boundary of morality. Mu Yulu had a banana in her mouth, swaggering and strutting into the dining room, looking at me with a strange gaze. Well, Muley, long time no see. You've gotten even more handsome. I clenched the tablecloth tightly, my eyes red with anger. I was so angry. My whole body trembled, wishing I could sweep that wretch out of the house. Mu Yulu, what did your words just mean? Mulihang suddenly stood up, staring angrily as he shouted loudly. It's just the exact meaning of the words. Mu Yulu smiled snickeringly and flippantly. Auntie has fought in many battles like this. She definitely understands it best. Our whole family's expressions simultaneously darkened. Mulihang became even more furious to the extreme, angrily slamming heavily onto the table and shouting loudly, sternly, criticizing her lack of upbringing. Mu Yulu was scared back a few steps, leaning against the wall and aggressively glaring at my dad. Mu Lihang, what are you doing? Mu Manhwa couldn't stand watching his daughter suffer a disadvantage, rushing forward and aggressively shoving my dad. Speak properly. Why are you losing your temper? Eldest uncle, listen to whether he was talking properly or not. Shuelin is an elder to her, yet she dared to utter insults. Does she take me for anything at all? She is my daughter. Even if she said something wrong, it's still not your turn to lecture her. The moment those words fell, Trinam grabbed a pika. With so many elders present here, even if I shouldn't interfere, putting down my chopsticks and wiping my mouth. With so many elders present here like this, even if I shouldn't have chimed in, it still wasn't your turn to act high and mighty and lecture me. Mu Yulu's complexion was extremely unsightly, wanting to snap back but not knowing how to open her mouth, choking up completely. All right, Tutulan, wave your hand. My younger sister, signaling the child to say no more. Yulu, normally, when you go out to play and act recklessly, causing trouble and gossip more than a few times. Auntie knows it all quite clearly in her heart. Young people, being high-spirited, is fine, but it's best to tone it down a bit. Otherwise, if you provoke someone you shouldn't provoke, Auntie won't be able to help you either. The amount of information in this statement was too massive for someone of Muyulu's caliber to easily comprehend. She looked extremely uneasy as she glanced at Trinan. Trinan's face turned pale white, shaking her head at her, and afterwards hoarsely spoke up to plead. Sister-in-law, the child is still young. Please don't bicker with her. Furthermore, we are all family. Since we're family, what is there that can't be let go of? That's right, Sutulan sneered coldly. Since we're family, there is nothing that can't be let go of. I'll remember these words well. This statement clearly had a deep, hidden meaning. Trinan felt extremely uneasy in her heart. reaching her hand behind her back to pull at the hem of her husband Mu Qianhua's pants. Mu Qianhua also realized something was amiss. Mu Qianhua walked to his daughter's side, pressing her head down. You useless thing. Speaking without any order at all. Hurry up and properly apologize again. That chut. Mu Yulu still hadn't grasped the situation, angrily shouting. I already apologized just a moment ago. I told you to apologize once more. Mu Yulu unwilling clenched her teeth tightly. I apologize. I really know I was wrong. Sister-in-law, this child really knows her mistake now. Please forgive her, won't you? Mu Qianhua pleaded with a sincere face. Eldest brother, what are you doing? The child just apologized a moment ago as well. Dealing with it like this surely doesn't need to be made into something so serious as this. Su Tulan smiled on the outside, but not on the inside, looking somewhat angry. Dad, after terrifying people you still pretend to be magnanimous. Mu Qianhua felt extremely choked up with anger, but could only force himself to endure it. This child lacks manners. How can that be called a minor issue? Wait until we get home. I will definitely educate her properly, ensuring next time we meet, she'll be respectful to Auntie. Su Tulan smiled and nodded. Educating her a bit more is good. Playing the role of either good or bad, she handled it all. The family of Qianhua felt utterly suffocated, but for now, they were at a disadvantage. No matter how angry they could only grit their teeth and endure it. Since things have already been made clear. Eldest brother. Everyone, sit down and eat. Qianhua hurriedly waved his hand in refusal. The time isn't early anymore. Eldest brother's family should head back too. Weren't you guys supposed to come eat a reunion meal? Su Tulan deliberately smiled and retorted. Dad still remembers what Trin said when she first stepped through the door. Right now, it can be considered paying back both capital and interest. Trin's complexion instantly stiffened, clutching tightly onto the handbag in her hand, her tone extremely awkward as she replied. Just now I was only saying, as a joke, we had already eaten before coming here. Su Tulan acted as if she understood, nodding repeatedly. So it was a joke then. That's fine too, everyone. Have a safe trip back. She deliberately emphasized last 4 words, sounding almost like she was cursing. Someone Mu Qianhua and his wife's complexions looked extremely terrible, not wanting to linger for even a single second, hurriedly dragging their daughter away. Once they stepped out of the gate, Su Tulan sneered and spoke up. Each and every one of them is trash, yet with that ghostly appearance they still want to climb onto our heads and act wildly. Weren't they actually acting wildly before Mu Xiaobi chimed in from the side? If it weren't for fear of making it difficult for Dad, I would have dealt with them long ago. The exposure by her younger sister made my mother lose her cool. Instantly, her whole body bristled up like an animal. Mu Xiaobi loved seeing her get all worked up like that purely because she wanted retaliate against the coldness she had received from her for so many years. Right? What my daughter said is completely right. If I didn't care about Dad and Mom, I would have already made a move. Li Hang hurriedly coaxed his wife's anger away, otherwise the unlucky one in the end would definitely be him. Su Tulan felt much more comfortable inside, letting out a cold snort before saying, if it weren't for this family, I wouldn't have added those extra insults. Take right, Mo. Li Hang continuously nodded in agreement. Mentioning this matter made me choke up with anger again before I married you. What did you say? You said you would definitely not let me suffer half a point of grievance. You didn't make me aggrieved, but instead let others make me aggrieved. It's all my fault. Men's words are truly ghostly nonsense. That's not wrong at all. Truly, no matter what Su Tulan complained about, my dad would continuously nod in agreement. A younger sister and I stood watching with disgusted expressions. Being this afraid of his wife really made people unable to bear looking. Once Su Tulan finished venting her anger, she couldn't bear to watch. After Su Tulan finished venting her anger, she felt relaxed, picked up her cup of water to take a sip, and then coldly declared, from now on, won't pamper them anymore. They're just getting more and more daring. We keep enduring this. Who knows how they'll treat us in the future? So, from now on, we won't bother pampering them anymore. Mi Hang gently patted her back. Calm down. Don't get too angry and harm your health. Su Tulan didn't say anything more, drinking a few more sips of water before walking away. My dad immediately followed behind her. In the dining room, only the 2 of us siblings remained. I picked up a chopstick full of food and put it into my younger sister's bowl, speaking in a gentle tone to her, who was at an age of rapid growth. Eat more nourishing food. Big brother, I'm already full. Though she said that she still picked up her chopsticks and finished all that food, after chewing and swallowing. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. Big brother, just now why was eldest aunt so afraid of Mom? Like that my motion of picking up food paused. I pulled my hand back and let out a long sigh, this matter. It's better for you not to know. I'm already an adult, you know me. Lipe showed a somewhat displeased look. Children at this age hate most be treated like kids. I glanced at her and instantly understood. This point, gently laying my chopsticks down on the rest, crossing both hands behind the back of my head, and looking up at the ceiling while calling past events from my previous life in my mind. Mom suffered all kinds of hardships since she was young, losing both father and mother, and going through countless trials and tribulations. That was a hardship we can hardly imagine. But you also know Mom is very resilient, no matter how difficult things were. She forged out a world of her own. Do you know the Feng Yuan group? I turned my head to look at Mulibe. Mulibe blankly shook her head. I don't know. That's normal. That group moved away over a dozen years ago. Then Mom used to manage that group. I thought for a moment before continuing to explain. The boss behind that group was extremely mysterious. No one knew his true identity. Later on, some commercial disputes occurred, so they had to turn to the person in charge at the time. You can try to imagine to be able to independently control a realm there without a single person knowing. To this day, the backing's strength is enough to prove just how powerful that background was. Mom was valued at the top brass and entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Before things happened, she was safely allowed to withdraw, and furthermore, it helped Mom clean up all the loose ends. You can see just how powerful Mom's capability is. Mulibe stared blankly at me, clearly shocked by these words, to the point that she couldn't digest them for a long time. Actually, had omitted many details and kept it quite vague. Su Tuilan, in her youth, was a dominant figure who made things happen. It's just that her methods were somewhat thunderous and decisive. I knew about these things, but I couldn't tell my younger sister everything. Since she was determined to know, I had no choice but to use what could be told to explain it to her. Meaning, Mom, when she was young, was Mulibe still couldn't think of right phrasing. I smiled as I looked at her, helping to supplement. The boss lady, in short. She was extremely not someone to mess with. Therefore, after Mom got angry, eldest aunt was so panicked. Like that. If Mom really wanted to make a move, Muyulu wouldn't even know how she died. Was extremely not easy to mess with. Therefore, after Mom got angry, Auntie panicked so much. If Mom had really wanted to make a move, Muyulu wouldn't even have known how she died, though. Mulibe's expression darkened slightly, not knowing what else to say. Although Trinam frequently spoke ill of my mother, she never dared to bring up matters regarding this aspect. She didn't dare offend my mother, and naturally, my younger sister was completely clueless. I chose to tell you these things so you wouldn't later hear them from someone else's mouth, as others inevitably added salt and vinegar, fearing it might affect the relationship between you and Mom. You just need to remember clearly. No matter what Mom went through in the past, she is not a bad person, at least toward us, absolutely not. The more I spoke, the more solemn my expression became. In my past life, before my rebirth, my younger sister didn't know who she heard gossip from and ended up coming home to quarrel fiercely with Mom, speaking extremely harshly and gratingly, insanely rubbing salt into Mom's wounds. Su Tuilan didn't want to show weakness nor dredge up old events to explain, so the mother and daughter ended up thoroughly estranged. Therefore, after being reborn and living again, I would definitely not let this tragedy repeat itself. Big brother. I will remember it very well. Mulibe had always listened to me obediently, raising her eyes to look at me. I reached out to pat her head. Good girl, big brother. Do you still have to go to the hospital to take care of her? Your hopelessly infatuated Mulibe had advised me over and over again to no avail, ultimately deciding to resolutely give up. But currently, I had given a different answer. The little girl wondered if she had heard wrong. I know staying by her side isn't happy at all. I've completely thought it through. We'll get a divorce sooner or later anyway. From now on, you don't have to worry about me anymore. I wore a helpless expression as I looked at her. Everything Big Brother said is true. Really. The young girl's eyes grew brighter and brighter, like the most dazzling, beautiful stars, the point of taking one's breath away. I smiled and nodded. That's truly wonderful. It's great that you've thought it through. Mulibe wore a relieved smile. If you still hadn't thought it through, I wouldn't have been able to hold back from going to teach her a lesson. You stinky little brat, you even dare to say such words. I raised my hand and gave the back of her head a pat. Mulibe rubbed the spot that had just been hit, giving a silly little smile. I was just joking around. Anyway, I tightly pursed my lips, my expression turning extremely complicated. Joking. I knew very well she was completely serious. In my past life, before my rebirth, once when I came home to grab some things passing by my younger sister's room, I found the door not fully closed. I saw her sitting in front of her desk, sneakily writing something. I was momentarily curious and pushed the door straight inside. Flustered, she shoved things into her drawer and turned round, a flash of panic crossing her face when she saw it was me. I stepped forward and pulled the drawer open to look unexpectedly. It was a severance letter. She wanted go find Lin 11 to confront her directly. Are you out of your mind, big brother? Listen to my explanation first. Just want to get her away from you for a bit. Enough, my matters don't need you to manage. We'll talk to Mom about this. I'm confiscating this. Afterward, she cried and explained a lot. I don't remember it clearly anymore. Roughly, that she did it out of good intentions for me. Ever since that time, a younger sister and I had very little contact. At that time, Lin 11 was the most important person in my heart, while my younger sister intended to harm her, which made me harbor resentment and intentionally distance myself from her. Big brother. Why are you suddenly not saying anything? Mu Libei interrupted my train of thought. I looked at the younger sister before me, smiled bitterly, and spoke. You really are too silly. Everyone else praises you for being smart. How come only big brother says you're silly? Mu Libei put on an expression full of annoyance because big brother sees through. In nature, I smiled and stood up. All right, let's hurry outside. Let the home helper finish cleaning up so we can head home early. You're smart. Why is it only you? Is because you're dumb. Mu Xiaobi wore an expression full of annoyance. Because I saw through your nature. I laughed and stood up. All right, let's hurry and head outside. Let the housekeeper clean up so we can finish early and head home. To celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival, the two of us siblings stepped out of the dining room and saw that our parents weren't in the living room, so we intentionally went to look for them outside. The sunlight was very nice. The two of them had brewed some tea and sat out in the courtyard. I comfortably leaned back against the chair, slightly narrowing my eyes to sunbathe. After eating your fill and drinking your fill, it's very easy to get sleepy. Just as I was planning to take a quick nap, the phone in my pants pocket vibrated. I clicked my tongue with impatience, having a gut feeling. It was the hospital calling and fundamentally didn't want to pull it out to answer. I turned around, intending to ignore it and not pay any attention, but the caller was extremely persistent. Since I wouldn't pick up, they just kept calling non-stop. The vibration noise annoyed me so much that I had no choice but to feel around and fish out the phone. Sure enough, it was Tsujiaiki calling. Without needing to think, I knew it was ordered by Lin 11. My expression turned extremely dark as I answered, with a somewhat cold tone. What instructions does your boss have, President Lin? President Lin told you to hurry back to the hospital quickly. She needs someone to take care of her by her side. Are you her manager or someone who died? I bounced up from the lounge chair, my face unable to hide the anger. Turn on speakerphone for me. I've already turned it on. This woman, Lin 11, really is something else. Why did she have let Tsujiaiki pass along messages while she turned into mute? Fine, Lin 11, open your ears and listen up. Well, I took a deep breath. Her mother hired a professional caregiver. Yet the caregiver in the next room is sleeping in and loafing around without a care in the world. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were keeping her as your sugar baby. You got into a traffic accident, yet you still make her live the good life. I know it. Of course, I know it clearly, and I'm not an idiot either. The anger in my chest surged straight up to the top of my head. I spend money hiring a caregiver so that person can live the good life while you don't even fork over a single cent, treating me like a slave every day and exploiting me. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you even consider me a human being? You're a human, of course I consider you a human. Lin 11's voice was extremely low, sounding as if she had just woken up. Predictably, the very next second she even let out a yawn. I overhear was so angry. I was about to explode, and hearing this yawn made me completely blow my top. Lin 11, listen clearly, want me keep serving you absolutely out of the question. Before she could even finish, hung up the phone without the slightest hesitation. Mu Libei on the side hadn't missed a single word, wearing a look full indignation as she opened her mouth to interrogate. You've been taking care of here these past few days. Anyway, isn't it just you alone? I threw my phone onto the chair, put both hands on my hips, and said angrily, they simply don't want to let me live in peace. I could even endure this much, but having an extra caregiver. Go sleep in the next room. What on earth is this supposed to provoke? Anione, isn't it trying to provoke? Who from behind came, mother's voice carrying traces of a smile. I abruptly turned my head to look at her mom. Those people from the Lin family are too despicable. Completely despicable, down to their very bones. Su Tuilan smiled without speaking, walking up in front of me and raising the money transfer notification she had just received on her phone. Do you know what this is about now? I stared. The number on the screen, shocked, to the point where my eyes widened, as big as saucers. Could this possibly have been transferred by Lin 11? That's right. Su Tuilan put her phone away, while also withdrawing her smile. Head back to the hospital, immediately, right now. Mom, did you sell your son out just for this bit of money? My whole body felt like it was about to split apart. This bit of money? Su Tuilan let out a cold laugh. Even if I sold you, you wouldn't be worth 30 million yuan, Uncle Tran immediately. Take the young master back to the hospital. After saying those words, Su Tuilan turned around and walked into the house. My face was full of gloom. Matters had already reached this point. Whether I wanted to go back or not, I had no choice to go back. The one paying the bills is Big Boss after all. So I headed back to the hospital room once more. Again, the one paying is the big shot. Once again returning to the hospital room with a bitter grudge in my heart, I once again deliberately started ignoring Lin Wanwan. Inside, Lin Wanwan was also extremely furious. She had already paid money, yet his serving attitude was still like this. Why had the two of them fallen into a cold war until the doctor came over to check and finished saying that she would very soon be able to move around freely? Was completely sitting on pins and needles. She would completely recover sooner or later. Once she could run and jump around, she would definitely take ruthless revenge. Seeing the bandages on her body diminish, I was so depressed that I couldn't eat my meals, and my sleep was extremely restless. Countless times, entertained the thought of sneaking in while she was asleep and giving her a couple of whacks with a stick. Lin Wanwan ultimately couldn't take it anymore, lying next to someone who was always waiting for a chance to harm you. Having to be on guard every single day. Who on earth could handle that? Finally, the day arrived when the doctor said she could begin rehabilitation training. She looked at me facing window and sighing, as long as you properly take care of my rehabilitation and wait until after I successfully get discharged, I will definitely not bring up past matters again. Though she hadn't laid everything out completely in the open, it was still enough for me to clearly understand her intention. It's just that my heart was still not at ease, so I rushed over to the bedside, staring fiercely and intently at her. You're definitely not going to take revenge on me once you're discharged, right? Line. Wanwan clenched her teeth hard with all her might. I'm definitely not. As the dignified general manager of the Lin Group, lying in a hospital bed while being bullied, yet having to suppress her burning anger without being able to vent it out, the extent of her grievance could well be imagined. Whether she was actually aggrieved or not, I had no clue at all. I only knew that right now I was having a great time doing bad things without having to pay any price. This feeling was just too marvelous. The anxiety in my heart in that very moment dissipated like smoke into thin air, and my whole body became much lighter. You must feel different now, right? My mood was extremely good, so I was even willing to crack a smile at her. Shall I go pour you a cup of warm water? Lin Wanwan's gaze wavered slightly, and she unhappily opened her mouth to make a request. Helped me add a little bit of honey. There is a saying, give them an inch and they'll take a mile. My eyelids twitched repeatedly, and the smile on my face faded by 3 parts. Where on earth am I supposed to find honey for you? There's a supermarket downstairs, the hospital. Go yourself. I don't want to move. My tolerance level toward her was extremely low, and once again, realizing this point, she became somewhat annoyed and clicked her tongue. What are you clicking your tongue for? The annoyance in my heart grew even stronger. I wasn't her exclusive caregiver, let alone her personal nanny. It wasn't like whatever she wanted me to do, I was obligated. Go do it. Talk about giving her a bit of sunshine. And she thinks she's bright. To go do that truly was giving a bit. Just drinking a glass of water, and she still demands honey, or whatever. Back then, when staying up late, working overtime. Why didn't I see her care about her health like this back then? It was also because I was cheap. She herself didn't cherish her body at all yet. I kept painstakingly advising and urging her, only to be disliked and accused of sticking my nose into other people's business, even telling me to crawl away as far as possible. Lin Wanwan lowered, gaze remaining silent without a word. Was she really ever that overbearing? Back then, no wonder she began to develop self-doubt within herself. Even if her personality was bold, it didn't mean she couldn't tell good from bad. Faced with someone else's goodwill, she normally wouldn't refuse, let alone put on a cold attitude. Seeing that she still hadn't spoken up, and I had no idea what she was thinking, rolled my eyes super wide, turned around, and walked over to the water dispenser, grabbed a cup of warm water, and walked back. I directly handed it to Lin Wanwan. Drink it yourself. Her left hand wasn't heavily injured, and after recuperating for several days, it was almost healed, except for eating meals, which was genuinely a bit inconvenient, and required me to help feed her. Food was genuinely a bit inconvenient, requiring me to help out, feeding her. As for minor things like drinking water or grabbing things, she could completely do them by herself. Lin Wanwan reached out to take the cup of water, slightly tilted her head to take 2 small sips, and then placed the cup on the bedside table. Just a moment ago, I had casually left my phone there. The screen was still bright because I had forgotten to turn it off. Lin Wanwan couldn't help but see it, even if she didn't want to. The chat history interface with the 3 words, Chu, Yaiki, right at the top made the space between her eyebrows twitch violently for a second. These 2 dared to claim they weren't close. That was practically fooling ghosts. She took 2 deep, heavy breaths after lying back down, trying to calm herself as much as possible as she asked, "You and Shujiaiki have known each other?" Beforehand, right, she had asked this question countless times. I was truly sick of hearing it. Why do you always have to get hung up on this issue? Are you sick in the head or something? Lin Wanwan also felt she genuinely had something wrong with her head. Seeing me and Sujiaiki talking happily made her feel extremely uncomfortable inside. Even if we knew each other, so what? I truly have no way to figure it out. First of all, does it have anything to do with you? It doesn't have any impact on you either. Why do you insist on caring so much about it? Lin Wanwan slightly pursed her thin lips. She also really wanted to know what the answer was, but then she started playing dumb again. I truly didn't want to pay attention to her anymore, taking my phone, the sofa, to binge watch a show. Only then did I notice the screen was still lit. Realizing why she had suddenly brought up the past, I instantly burst out laughing, looked toward her, and loudly interrogated, sneaking a peek at someone else's private phone. I truly looked down on you. I didn't peek. Lin Wanwan's expression turned thoroughly pitch black. I pointed straight at the bridge of her nose. And you still dare to make excuses? You didn't lock the screen and placed it right next to my face. I didn't even want to look at it. It just slammed itself into my eyes. Could this possibly be blamed on me too? I'm turning eavesdropping on a phone into something so pure and refined. This is genuinely my first time seeing it. Can I take back my promise not to take revenge? This man is truly too asking for a beating. I wore an expression full of annoyance as I left the hospital room. Lin Wanwan immediately sat bolt upright from the bed, forgetting that the injuries on her body hadn't fully healed yet. The movement pulled at her wounds, causing her to frown in pain. She tightly clutched her chest and began coughing violently. Chujiaiki, who was outside the door, heard the coughing and hurriedly pushed the door open to step inside. "Miss Lin, where did Mushengo?" Lin Wanwan's voice was extremely cold. "Sir, he went out Su." Jiaiki's face turned pale white, wearing a hesitating expression, wanting to speak but holding back. Currently, Lin Wanwan's mood was extremely terrible, and she looked at Jiaichi with complete impatience. "If you have something to say, spit it out quickly." Sir saw that my complexion looked haggard, so he went to buy lip balm for me. Lin Wanwan instantly felt her breath hitch, telling him to go downstairs, buy honey, and he wouldn't do it, but running errands for Sujiaiki, and he dashed off in a flash. Crucial point was that he even went of his own accord. This man was truly infuriating enough to make someone die without paying for it. Sujiaiki had followed by her side for many years. Although her expression didn't change on the surface, Jiaiki knew she was extremely furious at this very moment. Jiaiki wanted to sneakily slip away, but who would have thought that the moment she lifted her foot to take a tiny step, Lin Wanwan cast an unfriendly gaze over. Clenching her teeth, she coldly ordered, "At your butt. In here right now." She absolutely had to interrogate the situation clearly today. Otherwise, she would always have the illusion that she was being cheated on. 20 minutes later, I returned and saw that Exu. Jiaiki's face was pale. I hurriedly strode over, full of worry, as I stared intently at her. "Why does your complexion look so bad? Did you stand too long and get tired, or is somewhere feeling uncomfortable?" "Why don't? It's nothing. I just felt it was too hot." Chujiaiki lowered her head. Could she not feel hot? She had almost been roasted to ashes by the flames of anger of Lin Wanwan, and roasted to death. I scratched my head in confusion, suddenly feeling a bit chilly. "Are you really sick? Or should we go see a doctor for a quick checkup?" Faced with my attentive and caring concern, Exo, Jiaiki panicked and trembled, hurriedly wiping the cold sweat from her forehead, wearing an awkward expression as she replied, "Thank you, sir, for your concern. I'll go get checked out. Lin Wanwan needs someone to take care of her. You should hurry back in there." I stared at her intently, not saying anything for a moment. My intuition clearly told me that Exu Jiaiki's state was extremely abnormal, and the person who made her this abnormal was very likely Lin Wanwan. I turned around, pushed the door open, and entered the hospital room, only to see her leaning against the headboard, looking at her phone, the faint smile still lingering on her lips. I walked over and probed, asking, "Just now did Exu Jiaiki come in?" Here Lin Wanwan gave me a faint glance. I was busy handling work. Calling her in disturbed me. This was completely a lie. As a shrewd businesswoman, telling lies was just like eating a normal meal, and she had long since mastered the skill of keeping a straight face. Therefore, I couldn't spot any flaws at all. It's just that I still harbored suspicions, staring at her for a long time, failing to find any clues whatsoever. I became unwilling to let it go and opened my mouth to warn her to be a bit more upright and above board. Sorry, I don't understand. What you mean? Lin Wanwan acted extremely calm. I didn't continue pressing the issue either. Carrying bag of snacks over to the sofa, sitting down, and turning on a newly released Palace drama series. Lying half flat on the comfortable sofa eating snacks. While watching the show, I even let out exclamations during dramatic parts. Lin Wanwan turned her head to glance at me. Just a single look like that was enough to sense how leisurely I was right then. Lin Wanwan found it extremely amusing. This man, no matter what environment he was in, could always find a way to make himself happy. To put it bluntly, he was just a heartless and emotionless freeloader. And coincidentally, right when she was about to retract her gaze, I suddenly turned my head to look at her. Why are you staring at me with such a creepy smile? Did I put on makeup or something? How do you know I'm looking at you? You're ultimately a big shot in the business world. But you can face an awkward situation with an unblushing face and an unthumping heart, acting completely calm and natural. I saw you looking at me with my own eyes. I turned my head to appraise the surroundings once, then said with a sarcastic expression, "This mural is actually quite nice, but I think it's not as good looking as me. So you must definitely have been looking at me." She unceremoniously mocked, backborn with excessive self-confidence. That's just arrogance and conceit. Were you like this at school too? I raised my eyebrows triumphantly. Is there a problem? It's good that you have no problems. Otherwise, I'd be afraid you'd get beaten up halfway down the street. Rest assured, I've never been beaten up by anyone to this day, which just proves that you were poking your nose into other people's business. Too much. Lin Wanwan let out a soft laugh and didn't continue speaking. This attitude made it seem as if I were a child, while she was an adult, magnanimously letting a child's naive words slide, with a helpless, bitter smile, not wanting to argue further with me. My good mood was ruined once again, and not wanting to look at her for even a second longer, I put my phone down, turned my back to her, and lay down to sleep. He's actually genuinely pissed off now. Lin Wanwan furrowed her brows, deciding to play it safe and remain motionless. Who knows how much time passed? The moment she was guessing whether I had fallen asleep, she heard my inner voice. I really want to rush back to school, already having to face this moody and extremely hateful woman every single day. It's truly too agonizing. Lin Wanwan's expression instantly turned dark. Every day, she had to listen to these complaining words inside the inner voice, while also having to, truly too painful. Lin Wanwan's complexion, in an instant, turned pitch black. Every single day, she had to listen to these words of complaint in inner voices, while also having to, pretending not to know was truly, also, very agonizing. At this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded, and I immediately waved my hand to signal entry. And Wanwan's voice was soft, sweet, and filled with tenderness, like water. Even without looking at her face, just listening to her voice alone was already a kind of enjoyment. The person outside, pushing the door open to step into the hospital room, was a male nurse who frequently came to change her bandages. The male nurse wasn't very old, probably newly graduated from university, looking fair-skinned and tender, with pretty good facial features. Among ordinary people, he could even be considered a handsome guy. As soon as he entered the door and saw Lin Wanwan, his face involuntarily blushed for a moment, and then he slightly lowered his head and walked over to the hospital bed. Placing the ointment down, Miss Lin came to the bedside and put down the ointment. "Lin Xiao, you should apply some on your bruised spots. This ointment will make the bruises fade away after a few applications." Lin Wanwan usually treated others very coldly, and the male nurse had never seen her smile, so he was extremely curious what her appearance would be like when she smiled, thinking to himself that it would definitely be even more mesmerizing. He bit his lip hard, gathered his courage, and raised his head to look at her face. "Miss Lin, this afternoon, you can practice rehabilitation." This meant that before long, she would be able to walk around freely. This was truly the best news ever, just as the male nurse hoped. A faint smile bloomed on her face. How pretty she looked when smiling. How adorable. How captivating to others. And how easily she could make people infatuated. I knew this better than anyone else. Therefore, when I turned my head and saw the male nurse's expression, my gaze flashed slightly. I sneered and opened my mouth to mock Lin. "Wanwan, you better get discharged and go home. For more than 20 days now, you've piled up a bunch of stinky socks that are about to reek. They're already reeking. I'm really not trying to talk down on you. Looking like a proper human being. Why are you so filthy and sloppy? Living with you. I've truly had enough." Lin Wanwan's cold gaze stared fixedly at me. Seeing her getting ready to open her mouth, I immediately cut her off. "Why are you glaring at me? Could it be that what I said isn't the truth? What could it be that what I said wasn't the truth? My bro, you must remember my words carefully. In the future, when finding a partner, you can't just look at outer beauty. Can good looks be eaten? Even if they could be eaten, it might not necessarily taste good. I'll take my nominal wife as an example. Marrying her turned my guts green with regret. Usually, her daily living habits are sloppy and unkempt, and it's one thing that she doesn't know how to take care of herself, clueless, and not knowing how to take care of oneself. She isn't even the least bit faithful in relationships. The male nurse widened his eyes in shock. Free gossip about a wealthy scandal. He actually got to hear, unfaithful in relationships. Who on earth could take that? Even if she has money and power, being unfaithful in relationships can be overlooked, as long as she's willing to spend money on you. But what if she catches an illness outside and comes home to infect me? You tell me, is money important, or is life important? In my view, you absolutely have to find someone loyal and devoted with all their heart. What beauty or no beauty? When you get old, you just become an old hunched granny anyway, who can be much prettier than anyone else. As for whether she has money or not, as long as you live peacefully and steadily and can support your family, that's enough. The male nurse looked blankly at me, trying to digest this massive amount of information. Mushin, have you said enough yet? Lin Wanwan's voice suppressed her burning fury as she said, enough. I threw myself back down onto the sofa, putting on a pretentious sigh. They say beautiful women are all liars. Could a beautiful woman not be one too when choosing a person? You absolutely cannot just judge by appearance. Falling in love with her is just suffering and enduring, torment saving. A life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. I couldn't just stand by and watch a young man jump into a fire pit. Still, words have already reached this point. If he still plays the fool, there's nothing I can do. I can only say, to each their own fate. Lin Wanwan's eyes were bloodshot as she stared at me, the flames of anger having risen all the way up to her throat, ready to erupt from her mouth at any second. What did loving mean suffering mean before birthing? She truly had hurt me. But after rebirthing, what did she do wrong? Lin Wanwan felt extremely wronged and deeply aggrieved in her heart. However, in my eyes, regardless of whether it was before or after rebirthing, she was still the exact same person, still the woman I utterly detested. Therefore, between the two of us was tied a dead knot for her to try and improve. Our marital relationship was fundamentally an impossibility. Never had anyone spoken these words to the male nurse. Not even his own parents had ever done so. The level of shock can well be imagined. Inside his still naive head, he was still daydreaming about having a perfect woman among countless people who would specifically single him out and live a happy, joyful life thereafter. Was simply out to shatter his fantasies so he could return to reality sooner. Reality. How could there be so many perfect women? Even if there were, it wouldn't necessarily make someone happy. This Mr. My surname is Mu, given name Shen. I offered a faint smile. In response, Mr. Mu, thank you for telling me these things. The male nurse had an extremely shy personality and didn't know how to continue the conversation. So he simply flashed a foolish smile toward me. I nodded satisfactorily. No need to be polite. Just continue. Changing the bandage for my wife. Remember to be a bit gentler in case you hurt her and affect finding men in the future that wouldn't be good. The male nurse finished listening to my words, his gaze instantly turning cold as he lowered his head with an unfriendly expression to look at her. Mr. Mu, please rest assured I'm extremely professional, and my hands will definitely be very, very gentle. In Wanwan's expression sank in an instant, her entire body radiating a compelling aura, attempting to scare this male nurse so he wouldn't dare act rashly. Pity that there was no man who didn't hate a green tea bitch. When facing such scum, no matter how gentle one's personality was, they would turn vicious. Therefore, even though he was extremely terrified at this moment, his bandage-changing movements were much heavier than before. Not knowing whether he was acting out of spite or stemming from feminine self-esteem, Lin Wanwan stubbornly didn't utter a single sound. If it weren't for seeing her eyebrows knitted so tightly together, I would have truly thought she wasn't in pain at all. All done. The male nurse tossed the newly changed gauze into the trash can. Pay attention to the wound. Absolutely. Do not let it touch water. Get ready to practice rehabilitation this afternoon. Lin Wanwan's face darkened. Without uttering a single word, the male nurse let out a cold laugh, turned around and strode out of the hospital room. As he reached the door of the ward, he suddenly paused, smiling and waving goodbye to me. I politely responded to him, carrying a joyful smile on my face. Just because of a single sermon of mine, his attitude toward Lin Wanwan shifted from adoration to disgust, pulling him back from the brink of the abyss. I felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The male nurse walked outside and closed the door. The sound of the door closing made Lin Wanwan's tightly strung nerve snap completely. Push and get over here right now. Her voice sounded extremely calm. I'm not coming over right now. Whoever goes over right now is a complete idiot. Veins on Lin Wanwan's forehead throbbed continuously. I'm not angry. You come right over here. Right now. I have something I want to tell you. I'm right here. Can't you just say it? Why can't you let other people hear it? Is there anyone else in here? Seriously suspected whether she had been angered. The point of stupidity. Even if she wasn't angered, to stupidity she was definitely angered, to the loss of her rationality. I told you to come. Over here. So get over here right now. To the point of turning silly. Then it was getting mad. To the point of losing reason. I told you to come. Over here. So you came over immediately. Manhwa finally completely lost control, gritting her teeth and roaring at me. I sat bolt upright from the sofa, picked up banana from the fruit tray, sneered and retorted, I just won't. Come over. Oh, you're asking for it, Lin. Manhwa aggressively glared at me. You just honestly wait for it. My action of peeling the banana abruptly halted, and instinctively I shrank my neck back, even as if I was still afraid of her. Who wouldn't be afraid? Manhwa had always been an extremely terrifying existence, ever since she was little. Her mind was unfathomably deep and unpredictable, and absolutely no one could ever figure out what she was thinking. Her temper was also super eccentric, and anyone who offended her never had a good ending. After stepping into the business world, lying on her superhuman business brain, her sharp keenness in investment, as well as her swift, ruthless, and precise execution, she made people shit their pants just hearing her name. Remembering the methods she used to deal with enemies, even though I didn't want to admit defeat easily, I still couldn't control myself from softening up a lot. Actually, you don't need to take it to heart. I was just teasing him. Little bit you take randomly, slandering and smearing me. Treat it as a joke, Manhwa questioned expressionlessly. Why did you even hear it as smearing? I definitely didn't do that. Hey, don't casually wrong. Yeah, I planned to continue playing dumb and bluffing all the way to the end. Manhwa let out a cold laugh. That male nurse one look, and you could tell he had a crush on me. You didn't want him to keep coming to bother you either, right? What I did was also helping yourself solve your trouble. My ability to piss people off could literally drive someone to death. And my sharp tongue was also extremely formidable. She had lived together with me for so many days now, plus the fact that she could hear my inner voice. She more or less had a certain level of understanding toward me. I was simply a slick-talking and sharp-witted guy, unbelievably formidable at arguing. Trying to take verbal advantage of me was just too difficult, so she gave up arguing with me, turned her head to the side, closed her eyes, and then spoke like she was pronouncing a death sentence. You just honestly wait for it, and you better not fall into my hands. This matter can be easily negotiated, right? I hurriedly stood up and inched closer. My personality just has such a running-at-the-mouth habit. Surely you've experienced it fully during this period of time. So why are you still fussing and calculating with me? Manhwa looked at me coldly. Just because I experienced it fully, you unceremoniously insulted. So I'm not allowed to be angry at you. What kind of barbaric bandit logic are you using? Bandit logic, I blinked. My innocent eyes do I. The more she looked at this innocent expression of mine, the more the flames of anger in her heart blazed furiously. My guts were indeed big enough, running right up to her face, and still daring to be this smug. Why don't you play the bigger person and let this petty issue slide, treating it as if nothing ever happened? Okay, my face was plastered with a flattering smile. I've already lowered myself to this extent. If you still pursue this, you're truly lacking in generosity, according to Manhwa's personality, coupled with the fact that she wanted to improve our relationship. Once I was willing to soften up and concede she realistically wouldn't continue pursuing the matter anymore, but today she was truly pissed out of her mind. Her gaze turned icy cold, and she raised her hand, intending to grab my arm. Mr. Manhwa, I'm here to visit you. Right when her hand was about to grab me, the hospital door delivered clear voice. Manhwa slightly knitted, brows a flash of displeasure sweeping across her face. The smile on my face instantly became even more radiant. I spun around and slumped onto the edge of the hospital bed, watching Chuzimo as he step by step approached. Look who's here. Young Master Chu, you haven't come to visit Manhwa for days, and today, you finally have some free time. What ability? My ability to piss people off was simply too supreme. Right from the very first sentence, I managed to cause him to break down and rage quit. Young Master Manhwa doesn't like this form of address. His complexion came extremely unsightly. Moreover, when facing others, you should address them properly. Is that so? I forced out, an expression of surprise raising an eyebrow. Thanks, Chu Young Master, for the kind reminder. Say what you will. You're older than me, so your understanding is also much greater than mine. Oh man, this man's mouth is really something else. Chuzimo took several deep, heavy breaths of air to barely stabilize his state of mind again. A young master who truly hasn't learned the rules. Study more later, and naturally you'll know. This statement wasn't wrong in the slightest. I raised my hand and patted Manhwa's leg, lightly turning back to look at him. That's why I say my wife's taste in men is great. You are truly enough of a catch. Although calling her wife sounded very nauseating, these two listening to it would only find it even more nauseating. Look at how peculiar their expressions were. Chuzimo, of course, couldn't stomach it. Lin Wanwan couldn't stomach it, because she knew very well I was not being sincere at all, knowing clearly that it was fake affection and fake intentions. Hearing it only made one feel awkward and nauseated. Alone. Mushin, can you give your mouth a rest for a second? Lin Wanwan gritted her teeth, solemnly interrogating me. What's wrong? Afraid I'll make the man of your dreams feel aggrieved. Want to forcibly shut down my computer, right? I put on a displeased face, snorting twice. No matter how you look at it, I am still your nominal husband. Plus on our wedding night you also stayed with me. Intentionally paused my sentence right there without finishing it, but combined with the shy expression on my face, it was enough to make them understand what I was about to say. Woik. On the faces, both people appeared an expression as if they were constipated. So even if in your heart you like him, you still can't be so ruthless and heartless toward me. Otherwise you're going way too far. As I spoke, the rims of my eyes turned red. Who on earth was doing what to whom? Both of them reluctantly chose silence. I was also an ordinary person, and naturally would also feel the awkward atmosphere, not bothering to pay heed to anyone anymore. Losing interest. I clicked. My tongue stood up from the hospital bed and made a gesture inviting them out. The two of you go ahead and show your affection. Just pretend I don't exist. Will do. As soon as those words left my mouth, I immediately stood aside like a bystander, setting aside whether they actually showed affection or not. Even if they had the heart to do so, being stared at by me like this would make it impossible to show any affection. Anyway, Chuzimo had never encountered someone so difficult to deal with before. Previously, men who intended to approach Lin Wanwan, he could easily make them realize the difficulty and back off. He knew this time he had truly met an opponent. Wanting to defeat me was definitely not something to rush, but he couldn't help the fact that I was simply too good at pissing people off and knew too well how to hit right on other people's weak spots. Therefore he stared fixedly at me for a good half day, finally unable to hold back anymore, and opening his mouth to say, "Oh young master, since you already know the deep feelings between the two of us, could you please find it in your heart to show mercy and fulfill us being together?" Chuzimo raised his eyebrows. Together? Chuzimo raised his eyebrows. If he actually had this intention, this wasn't something he could just run over and ask me. I reached out and patted the soft hospital bed. As long as Sister Wanwan of yours says the word, I'll immediately grant your wish and let you two be. Chuzimo's gaze suddenly lit up brilliantly, hastily looking over at Lin Wanwan. Even though recently he always maintained a cold expression and treated me differently than before, he still always believed that she still loved him. How could she not love him? Clearly they had loved for many years. Was saying, give up something that could be done so easily. She would definitely open her mouth and demand a divorce. He had absolute confidence regarding this. Unfortunately, this confidence in the very next second was smashed to pieces. Out of nowhere, why on earth do I have to bring up the matter of divorce? Lin Wanwan asked back with a smile that wasn't a smile. I knew very well right now she did not want a divorce, and Chuzimo would definitely not get his wish granted, which was why the smile on my lips never faded away. Chuzimo finally paid attention to this point, but before she gave a clear answer, he still hadn't realized the seriousness of the issue. Now he had thoroughly realized it. Sister Wanwan, do you really like him? Now Chuzimo raised his voice and aggressively asked. There's no such thing, she replied with a speed that was astonishingly resolute and quick. After speaking, she turned her face to one side, not knowing whether it was out of disgust for this question or to hide the panic deep inside her heart. Chuzimo's tightly strung nerve suddenly loosened up. Oh well, if that's good, then wait, what on earth did you mean by that? What do you mean? That's good then, I glared, putting on an act of blazing fury. Let me make it crystal clear to you, although my moral boundaries won't let me deliberately sabotage the relationship between the two of you, I'm also not going to reject her liking me when three people appear in a relationship. Everyone should just rely on their own capability. Compete. Who the hell wants to rely on capability to compete? With you, Sister Wanwan and I were childhood sweethearts. Who's a childhood sweetheart? With you, I let out a sneer, interrupting him. Chuzimo, what I'm about to say next might sound even harder to listen to. Do you want to carefully open your ears and listen? Chuzimo's expression was extremely ugly. He kept his mouth shut entirely, as my sudden change in demeanor left him completely unable to guess my thoughts. Mr. Chu, let me think, which major business enterprise has the surname Chu? I wonder. I tapped lightly on my chin with my finger, pretending to look like I was thinking very seriously. It seems there really is such a family, but I remember President Chu only has a single son. So may I ask, this perpetually arrogant young master here whose family's young master are you supposed to be? His expression at this moment could no longer be described as ugly. His fingers kept twitching lightly, and his gaze stared at me with extreme coldness. What on earth are you trying to say? You're nothing more than a student, sponsored by the Lin family. Just a poor broke kid who walked out of a remote mountainous region. That's all. After I finished saying these words, it was as if all the pent-up frustration had been vented out. Yuzimo's face instantly turned pale white, his hands trembling violently. Without stopping, he forced out a stiff, cold smile. You're simply spouting nonsense, Sister Wanwan. Don't believe him for a second. He's just jealous of our fine and beautiful relationship. That's all. I spoke up to refute him without a shred of mercy. Whether I am spouting nonsense or not just by going to check the Lin family's sponsorship financial records. Won't everything become as clear as day? Lin Wanwan's expression became exceptionally ugly. She was an extremely shrewd businesswoman. How could she possibly fail to see through his guilty conscience? She took a deep breath and spoke coldly. Yuzimo, tell me the truth. Are the things he said the truth or not? Yuzimo was so terrified that his legs turned to jelly, his panicked gaze completely not daring to look at her. It's not like that, Sister Wanwan. What I feel for you is genuine. It's just that he's intentionally driving a wedge between us. He flusteredly reached out a hand intending to pull Lin Wanwan's hand, only to have it mercilessly batted away by her. Lin Wanwan's gaze radiated a bone-chilling coldness. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Get the hell out. Don't want to see you anymore. Seeing Lin Wanwan act so ruthless, Yuzimo's disguised mask completely shattered. His face twisted and contorted savagely as he picked up his things in a rage. You rich people always act all high and mighty. What gives you the right to make me bow and scrape to you all the time? Before he even had a chance to continue acting out, the bodyguards at the door rushed in and directly dragged him out of the hospital room. Inside the room, peace was restored like still water. Wanwan looked as though all her strength had been drained. Leaning delicately against the hospital bed, she turned her head to look at the person watching the good show, which was me. With a flash of intense regret slicing through her eyes, you restored her cold-as-ice composure, while Lin Wanwan looked as though all her strength had been drained. Leaning her delicate, pampered figure against the hospital bed, she turned her head to look at the person watching the good show, which was me. In her eyes flashed a trace of fierce regret. You already knew his true face long ago, right? I calmly peeled a mandarin orange. That's right. I saw right through it clearly, long ago. It's just that before you basically didn't leave me at all. Now wasn't this show fun to watch? Lin Wanwan's eyes turned red in the blink of an eye. Mushin, I'm sorry, it was my fault. Can we not get a divorce? We'll compensate you really well. I stood up, dusted off my hands, took out a prepared folder from my bag and gently placed it on her hospital bed. Everything is already too late. This is the divorce agreement that I've already signed. From now on, we'll each go our separate ways. Well water not offending river water. You recover from your injuries and I'm heading out. I didn't bother to look at her even one more time, leaving the hospital room without the slightest hesitation, while her suppressed sobbing echoed behind me. But inside my heart, there wasn't the slightest ripple left. Stepping out of that oppressive hospital, the sunlight outside was truly warm and radiant. A familiar car was parked right by the roadside, and Mulebe pushed the car door open, waving at me. We've come to pick you up to go home. Sutwilan and Mulihang were sitting inside the car, their faces brimming with gentle smiles. I took long strides forward toward them, leaving behind all those terrible things of the past. The happy life belonging to me had only just begun.